So we have now, we know, a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it. But, you know, in a real and meaningful context, what does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do here on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual, conversations, reporting about the actual criminality that has been going on, not just in this White House, but that has been going on for a long, long time, frankly, coming out of the White House. And these are conversations that we need to have. And so many of the conversations that we need to have, the role of the oligarchs, had it not been for the Koch brothers, Trump never would have been elected. For that matter, had it not been for the Koch brothers, probably the last several Republican presidents would never have been elected. If it wasn't for Rupert Murdoch, you wouldn't have a right-wing, billionaire Rupert Murdoch looking out for the billionaire class. You wouldn't have a right-wing machine that so dominates American politics that just crazy stuff gets out there constantly. And people end up going to pizzerias and shooting them up. I mean, it's just, anyhow, we talk about those things here. If you want to keep this network on the air, if you want to keep this kind of programming alive, you have to call now, 877-378-8669. It's Friday. Let's end the week with a big one, okay? 877-378-8669. We are way behind on meeting our goals. We need your help. We had an okay day yesterday. We didn't use up the whole match. We didn't accomplish that, and the match is gone. But we still have you, right? And if you can call now and make a pledge, it would be a big deal. 877-378-8669 with a $20 gift. Free Speech TV will send you a window sticker that you can put in your car or your front window or whatever. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic mug with my picture on it and tag you're it. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. This is probably the #1 book that I've written. It's been translated into, I believe, 17 languages on 5 continents. And this is new and updated and some pretty shocking information in it. $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt and the sticker. With a $240 gift, you can attend the NLP and personal growth webinar that Louise and I are putting together. And you'll get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, there's a 5-book special. Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. All the books by me, by the way, will have an autographed plate in them. They'll all be autographed books. With a $480 gift, or $40 a month for a year, you get all 5 books. You get the t-shirt, you get the sticker, you get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's basically everything. You get everything. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and we'll have a meet and greet. We'll hang out here for the last hour of the show, and you can watch the show. It's not recorded. It's live. Being performed, I guess is the word. Being done, whatever. And then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and we'll have a very nice day. So those are the goodies that Free Speech TV is offering. But the bottom line is this network is doing really important work. I mean, really important work. There are not a lot of progressive media voices out there. And the few that we have tend to occupy, more obscure niches. They tend to pop up on YouTube, or they're over on a website like Think Progress that literally Google refuses to spider. They refuse to include in their search engine results. Alternet and Think Progress and MediaMatters.org, they've all been hit with this. They've been essentially censored by Google. And then the right-wingers go in and they get the president of Google on and they say, why are you censoring right-wing sites? Well, we don't really censor right-wing sites, just Nazi sites and left-wing sites. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on in this country right now. If you want to preserve progressive media and help it grow, as I said, the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that come February, we're going to have at least one, maybe two, maybe even three new shows on this network. And one of them in particular, well, two of them actually in particular, I know the hosts, and they're going to be spectacular if we can pull this off. Wouldn't you like to have a really great show bumping out of the end of my show? So there's another couple hours of really great progressive programming that's live that you can interact with. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. And going to have to bring up my alternate call screen software here. Here we go. On the line with us right now is David Dayen. Is it Dayen or Dayen, David? I'm sorry.
It's Dan. You got it right.
Dayen. Okay, great. Journalist, contributor to The Intercept and the New Republic, author of the new book, Fat Cat, the Steve Mnuchin story. The website, daviddayen, dayen.com, and you can tweet him at ddayen. David, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. This is absolutely fascinating, this whole Steve Mnuchin story. Let's kind of start at the beginning here. Actually, let's start at the end. How corrupt is Steve Mnuchin? How precarious is his position in this administration? And what do we need to know about what's happening with him right now? And then I'd like to get into how he got where he is.
Sure. I mean, everything's relative in the Trump administration, right?
Yeah, it seems.
I mean, you could call Steve Mnuchin the most squeaky clean member of the Trump cabinet, and that would still put you in pretty dicey territory.
Yeah.
The arc of Steve Mnuchin's career is someone who was a financier at the highest levels, whether it's Goldman Sachs or his own hedge fund, his own bank, and then he moves into the government and is a driving force behind the very policies that benefit financiers, bankers, and his former colleagues and friends. You're talking about he was a major player in the tax legislation, which has been incredibly profitable for the banking industry.
And for Stephen Mnuchin, presumably.
A major player in deregulation of the financial sector, which obviously has benefited his former pals. So, it may not be personal corruption in a sense, but it's certainly the kind of corruption that comes from having a fox guard the hen house.
Yeah, literally. And no pun intended. So where did Steve Mnuchin come from?
Right. So Steve Mnuchin, one thing that's interesting in this book that I should say was also co-written by my partner, Rebecca Burns. So she should get some credit here. But she unearthed this quote that, at his confirmation hearing, he says he, started at Goldman Sachs working on a folding chair. Like he was up by their bootstraps kind of figure. The truth is that his father was a partner at Goldman Sachs. His brother worked at Goldman Sachs for 12 years. His college roommates both ended up working at Goldman Sachs. One of them was Eddie Lampert, who's in the news now because he was the hedge fund guy who bought Sears and ran it into the ground. Mnuchin has lived, his entire life essentially in the rarefied air of power and privilege, and particularly financial power. And so he goes to Goldman Sachs as a legacy, essentially. He, has an internship at Salomon Brothers, which is the company that ends up creating the mortgage-backed security. He worked under Lou Ranieri, who is the godfather of the mortgage-backed security, essentially the godfather of the financial crisis. And Mnuchin was working with him. He ends up going back to Goldman Sachs and running their mortgage desk. He ends up escaping trouble there by leaving and starting his own hedge fund, Dune Entertainment, which is named after, I believe, his summer home on Long Island or something. And he ends up buying one of these distressed banks that IndyMac, which is taken over in receivership by the FDIC, and he buys it, renames it One West Bank, and becomes what he has been called by critics as the foreclosure king. He's someone who, One West Bank, is tied up in all of the issues around illegal foreclosures, around kind of heartless situations of foreclosing on people over, 10-cent underages on their payments. And he, does that for several years as the chairman and chief, one of the principal investors in One West Bank, which he kind of created.
How did he bail out of One West Bank? How did he not get, sucked down the drain in 2008?
So One West Bank was purchased after 2008. It was,
okay.
IndyMac was a failed subprime lender, and Mnuchin, through his hedge fund, brings in a bunch of investors, makes a deal with the FDIC that includes a stop loss function, so that he does not take the hit on foreclosures above a certain threshold. And this enables him to lard on fees, profit off of, clearing out the underbrush of all these toxic subprime loans, with the government taking a good bit of the losses, and him and his investors ended up taking the proceeds. One West ends up flipping CIT, which is another bank that's owned by John Fain, who ran Merrill Lynch into the ground. CIT ends up buying One West for double, roughly, the investment that Mnuchin and his consortium made. So they made out very well on One West Bank, despite the fact that it engaged in these mass amount of foreclosures that really ruined people's lives.
So he doubled his money, basically throwing people out of their homes. He's our Treasury Secretary. This is a position that requires confirmation by the United States Senate. To what extent was this history brought up in the Senate confirmation hearings? And why is it that the average American doesn't realize that the guy running the Treasury Department was, literally referred to by his friends as a term of endearment in some cases as the foreclosure king?
So it was brought up, and yet it wasn't brought up. I mean, Republicans controlled the Senate, obviously, and Democrats held these kind of remarkable extra senatorial hearings with foreclosure victims who suffered at the hands of One West policies, where they gave direct testimony to the Senate, Democrats in the Senate, about what they suffered from at the hands of One West Bank. The other thing that I reported on at the time is that the California Attorney General's office initiated an investigation into One West Bank, which found what they called widespread misconduct in the foreclosure process. And they sent this up the chain, and the Attorney General at that time was Kamala Harris, who now is a senator from California, and she was recommended by her her lower level staff to prosecute One West Bank for these particular issues, and she chose not to for a variety of reasons. But the document itself was unearthed. It was actually sent to my house in a brown paper bag.
Wow.
It wasn't known about until right before the hearing when we released it, and this did not play really a factor. Every Republican voted for Steve Mnuchin to confirm him. But it did show that there was this, between that and the hearings, that there was this real discomfort with the way that Mnuchin operated at One West. Homeowner activists, foreclosure victims were adamant that this guy was running a foreclosure factory based, in some cases, on illegal documents. Mnuchin has, in my view, perjured himself on numerous occasions to the Congress by saying that his bank did not robo-sign when we have sworn testimony from vice presidents of One West Bank saying, I spent 30 seconds putting my signature on documents that attested to me knowing everything about the underlying loan. It's obvious that he lied about this over and over again on at least 3 occasions in both written and oral testimony to Congress. And yet, Mnuchin is a kind of guy that just sort of skates free.
Wow. Now, given we just have a minute or so left here, we're talking to David Dayen, whose new book is Fat Cat, the Steve Mnuchin story. Now that the Democrats are taking control of the House, is there enough juice to encourage, one of the committees that has oversight over the Treasury Department to start investigating Mnuchin, to look into this stuff? Or is this all safely behind us?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're talking about perjury towards Congress, you're probably talking about the Justice Department having to prosecute that, and I don't see that coming. If you're talking about the abuses covered under foreclosures, that's probably a state issue, and I don't see that
State of California
really happening. The statutes are done, and people have moved on. Steve Mnuchin is now in the corridors of power, and he is able to, in widespread fashion, dictate policies that have an impact on not just the banking sector, but really everybody. And when you really look at the full picture of the man and his origins and what he did in the private sector, and how he's rewarding the same people that he palled around with while Treasury Secretary, it paints a really disturbing picture. But I'm not sure if there's a total way out of it, although, turnover being what it is in the Trump administration, who knows? Maybe he won't be there even tomorrow.
Wow. So he escapes accountability again, this legacy child, Steve Mnuchin. David Dayen, brilliant. Fat Cat is the book, the Steve Mnuchin story. DavidDayen.com, DAYEN.com is the website. You can tweet him at DDayen. David, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Great talking with you. We'll be back. It's Anything Goes Friday, picking up your calls and thoughts on the day, as well as a stack of news I have for you here. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Oh, and at the top of the next hour, Dr. Jerome Corsi is going to be with us, our old friend. That should be entertaining. Stick around. And welcome back. Louie in Fontana, California, listening on KPFK. Hey, Louie, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Well, yesterday I was listening to your show, and you talked about like a spiritual awakening, and then that's somewhat like what I have, being a Roman Catholic, been a part of Knights of Columbus. But I was thinking, like, with the world going on today, Now, is it? We don't really have like the Book of Enoch in that, what we follow, but reading that and how it's like the fallen angels and this and that. Is it possible with all the global warming? They're trying to do it on purpose, like the elite, to see what's really down there.
I don't think so, Louis. Isn't Enoch one of the apocryphal the books of the Apocrypha, the books that the Catholic Church said, well, maybe not. We're going to set these aside and we'll hang on to them, but we're not going to put them in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. To think that global warming was done intentionally, particularly by essentially suicidal Christians looking for an end time kind of situation or something like that, I think is a stretch. I think what this comes down to is a very, very simple formula. We discovered roughly 200 years ago. Actually, humanity discovered this a couple thousand years ago with coal, but in a big way, a couple hundred years ago, or 100 years ago, or thereabouts, 150. We discovered that we could use fossil fuels to power, to not just light our homes and warm our homes, but to power giant machinery. And it became the beginning of the industrial age. That machinery got more and more sophisticated and smaller, and the efficiency with which we could convert fossil fuels and carbon fuels basically into energy became greater and greater, and we got better and better at it. And in the meantime, we warmed the atmosphere by about a degree, about 0.7 of a degree before we even realized we were doing it, from 1800 to the 1990s, or around 2000. And now we're realizing the damage we've done. And the question is, have we done so much damage it's not reversible? And meanwhile, the fossil fuel industry, particularly ExxonMobil, we know this from the released documents, has known since at least the 70s and at least the 80s, probably the 70s, that global climate change would be the consequence of using their product, and that it could have the potential to destroy life on Earth. And now, we're watching this. We're seeing insect apocalypses and birds, and we're seeing die-offs in some parts of the world as high as 80 and 90% of the insect and bird populations, and that's the bottom of the food chain. So we're looking at a major extinction event. That might, go along with Revelation. I don't know about Enoch, but that might go along with Revelation. But I just can't imagine, Louis, that anybody is doing this intentionally, except to make money.
Oh no, I didn't really to make it intentionally, but it could, that is just like, reading stuff on the internet and stuff like that. It just mentions that there's something underneath that ice that a long time ago happened.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know the Book of Enoch well. It's been 50 years since I even looked through the apocryphal Gospels, and I could never really make much sense out of any of them. But anyhow, I don't know, Louis. It's an interesting question. Thanks a lot for the call, and thanks for listening to KPFK. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's Anything Goes Friday on our program today. So whatever you'd like to talk about, there are, a couple of stories. Now I'll be continuing with these as we go through the program. But just on the immigration front, yesterday it was reported by the Washington Post that a 7-year-old girl from Guatemala who was taken into custody on December 6th near Lordsburg, New Mexico. She crossed the Mexican desert illegally with her father into the United States. And they were arrested at 10 o'clock at night on December 6th. And at 6:25 in the morning of that night, or the next morning, she started going, her body temperature is 105.7 degrees, and she started going into shock, in cardiac arrest. She actually died, was revived, and then died again at the hospital. And why? Because apparently the Border Patrol didn't give her water. She literally died of dehydration and shock. But this was overnight, so unless the other thing that's possible is that the Border Patrol put her in one of these very, very refrigerated rooms. They try to make it as uncomfortable as possible for these people. So now, in addition to putting children in cages, and we have several hundred of them still in cages right now. Actually, several thousand of them, if you include teenagers. They built a whole temporary jail down in the desert there. That we're spending $700 to $900 per person per day to private for-profit corporations that are spiffing Republicans. In addition to that, we're now killing children who arrive here illegally. And then, to add to the bizarreness of all this, Stephen Miller apparently has a new target. He's not just going after Hispanics and African Americans. He's going to go after Asian people, and he wants to kick out from the country the people who are now grandmothers and grandfathers who escaped Vietnam 40 years ago and never got around to applying for citizenship. They've just been living here on a green card. They have kids who are citizens. They have families who are citizens. And he's saying, these people are not Caucasians. We need to get them out of the country. Honest to God, he wants to renegotiate the treaty with Vietnam that says that anybody who came after 2000 or before 2008 is sort of like with Cuba, is legal. They can stay here. This is nuts. Anyhow, anything goes. Your calls. Coco in Brandon, Florida. Hey, Coco, what's up?
Good morning, Brother Professor. How you doing there?
I'm alive and well.
Great.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, just so you know, a little over 3 years I've been attending your full-time university.
Well, thank you.
And taking notes and everything. Tagging on to yesterday's conversation about religion, something I heard back in 2007, there was a three evenings, there was a series that came out by Christian Anapor called God's Warriors, if you happen to see that.
I didn't.
And it's available on YouTube, and I highly recommend it for anybody. 3 segments was broken down into Judaism, Christianity, and Muslims.
You said God's lawyers, as in attorneys?
No, I'm sorry, God's Warriors.
Ooh, warriors with a W. Okay.
Warriors.
Yeah.
Yes, 3 segments, and just totally unbiased. Like it was broken down. I don't know if I said this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Muslim
into three
Christianity,
religions.
Judaism.
We just have 30 seconds here, Coco.
Okay. So what I right before it aired on Larry King, she and a couple pastors, and here's the thing that I think sums it up all with religion and politics. Back in the Roman Empire, why didn't Jesus snap his fingers, make the soldiers get down on their knees and worship him and take over the Roman Empire?
I don't know.
Because real, true love is free will.
Oh, it's free of coercion. Yeah, I think also he didn't do it because he couldn't. I mean, he was a Jew in a country that was occupied by the Roman Empire, and Jews could not be citizens. So, he didn't have the political power. And if he had tried to assert that, well, in fact, there are the historians who would suggest that the reason why he was crucified is he was trying to assert political power. His turn the other cheek thing and walk the extra mile thing and give me your coat, those were all ways to provoke people to violate Roman law. Coco, thank you.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls. Anything Goes Friday. More of the news of the day. Is Trump a speed freak? Really? Snorting Adderall? After this break. So we know, a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it. But, in a real and meaningful context, what does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do here on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual, conversations, reporting about the actual criminality that has been going on, not just in this White House, but that has been going on for a long, long time, frankly, coming out of the White House. And these are conversations that we need to have. And so many of the conversations that we needed to have, the role of the oligarchs, had it not been for the Koch brothers, Trump never would have been elected. For that matter, had it not been for the Koch brothers, probably the last several Republican presidents would never have been elected. If it wasn't for Rupert Murdoch, you wouldn't have a right-wing, billionaire Rupert Murdoch looking out for the billionaire class. You wouldn't have a right-wing machine that so dominates American politics that just crazy stuff gets out there constantly. And people end up going to pizzerias and shooting them up. I mean, it's just, anyhow, we talk about those things here. If you want to keep this network on the air, if you want to keep this kind of programming alive, you have to call now, 877-378-8669. It's Friday. Let's end the week with a big one, okay? 877-378-8669. We are way behind on meeting our goals. We need your help. We had an okay day yesterday. We didn't use up the whole match. We didn't accomplish that, and the match is gone. But we still have you, right? And if you can call now and make a pledge, it would be a big deal. 877-378-8669 with a $20 gift. Free Speech TV will send you a window sticker that you can put in your car or your front window or whatever. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic mug with my picture on it and tag you're it. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. This is probably the #1 book that I've written. It's been translated into, I believe, 17 languages on 5 continents. And this is new and updated and some pretty shocking information in it. $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV sticker, t-shirt and the sticker. With a $240 gift, you can attend the NLP and personal growth webinar that Louise and I are putting together. And you'll get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, there's a 5-book special. Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. All the books by me, by the way, will have an autograph plate in them. They'll all be autographed books. With a $480 gift, or $40 a month for a year, you get all 5 books. You get the t-shirt, you get the sticker, you get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's basically everything. You get everything. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and we'll have a meet and greet. We'll hang out here for the last hour of the show, and you can watch the show. It's not recorded. It's live. Being performed, I guess is the word. Being done, whatever. And then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and we'll have a very nice day. So those are the goodies that Free Speech TV is offering. But the bottom line is this network is doing really important work. I mean really important work. There are not a lot of progressive media voices out there. And the few that we have tend to occupy, more obscure niches. They tend to pop up on YouTube, or they're over on a website like Think Progress that literally Google refuses to spider. They refuse to include in their search engine results. Alternet and Think Progress and MediaMatters.org. They've all been hit with this. They've been essentially censored by Google. And then the right-wingers go in and they get the president of Google on and they say, why are you censoring right-wing sites? Well, we don't really censor right-wing sites, just Nazi sites and left-wing sites. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on in this country right now. If you want to preserve progressive media and help it grow, as I said, the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that come February, we're going to have at least 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 new shows on this network. And one of them in particular, well, 2 of them actually in particular, I know the hosts, and they're going to be spectacular if we can pull this off. Wouldn't you like to have a really great show bumping out of the end of my show? So there's another couple hours of really great progressive programming. that's live that you can interact with. Call now, 877-378-8669.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's Anything Goes Friday. As mentioned just before the break, a fellow who for 6 years was a talent handler and worked on The Apprentice and on Donald Trump's teen beauty pageants back in the 90s. Yep, seriously. His name is Casler, Noel Casler, C-A-S-L-E-R. And he's a stand-up comic now, and he did this shtick where he says, Miss Teen Universe, yeah, that's like giving Jeffrey Dahmer a cooking show. He would line up the girls on the side of the stage. He's talking about Donald Trump, obviously. He would line up the girls on the side of the stage, and he would inspect them, literally. He would stick his little freaking doll fingers in their mouth and look at their teeth. I'm not kidding. This is true. He'd line them up like they were pieces of meat. He'd say, you, and if you want to win, I'm in the penthouse suite. Come up and see me. And then he goes, he continues, he says, McDonald's, chocolate ice cream, and girls that look like Ivanka are all he ever, shall we say, cares about. He added, the president is a speed freak who crushes up his Adderall and sniffs it because he can't read, so he gets really nervous when he has to read the cue cards. This is a quote from this guy. And that's why he's sniffling when you see him during the debates, and that's why he's tweeting. He's out of his mind. Well, this is interesting. Adderall is used to treat ADHD. And it's speed. It's a mixture of different salts of methamphetamine, which is speed. I mean, literally speed, Breaking Bad speed, And then Tom Arnold comes out, who was also on Celebrity Apprentice. And he says, this guy worked on Celebrity Apprentice for 6 years. He did the after parties and was Jared and Ivanka's handler. Donald Trump abused Adderall on the set and it made him crazy. He even snorted Adderall. Mark Burnett knew it. It's scary. Watch the tape. And the tape is Donald Trump going nuts. You can find it on Twitter. It's fascinating stuff. Jared in Downington, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jared, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. I want to talk about the passing of George H.W. Bush.
Okay.
And I wasn't able to talk about that last week with you, but I can now. I've been going over the number of people who were killed in all of the wars and conflicts that were started by Bush, along with the sanctions on Iraq.
Which killed 500,000 children.
Yes, actually a little bit more than that based off this
yeah, well, those numbers date back to 2002. It was 500,000 kids around that time. I haven't looked. Okay. So what are the numbers, Jared?
Well, if you also include the AIDS and HIV deaths as well.
Because Bush was following in Reagan's tradition of ignoring the AIDS epidemic, the HIV epidemic.
Oh yeah, he was rapidly homophobic during his presidency.
And refusing to fund research, by the way, that might have solved that problem, or refusing to fund some research. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Approximately 3.4 million people were killed because of the actions of George H.W. Bush.
Wow.
And almost all of that is the sanctions on Iraq that killed 3.3 million, including 750 children, based off this global research article I have here from Professor Francis Boyle and I don't know who the other person is.
Yeah, that's okay. Jared, yeah, this is this is why we did an hour on the show here at the end of last Friday, about the legacy of George Herbert Walker Bush. He was, in many regards, a war criminal, and he did have an enormous amount of blood on his hands, and his son decided to double down on it. It's tragic. It's truly tragic. Jared, thanks for the call. Scott in Mission, Kansas. Hey, Scott, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I also wanted to talk about the passing of George H.W. Bush and how the media has a tendency to put extremely soft kitten gloves on political figures when they pass away, because this was also the same with John McCain and how they had basically whitewashed their legacies and only talked about the good things those two men did.
Particularly their racist legacies. I mean,
Yeah.
they're naked, these white guys who just pandered to white bigots and homophobes too as well.
Yes,
I mean,
McCain had voted to ban same-sex marriage, but
Right.
he didn't vote for Bush's amendment because he felt that was too far, but he was still against same-sex marriage.
Yeah, and Bush Sr. was against the Civil Rights Act back in the 60s, and I'm not sure where McCain stood on that, but in any case.
You know, he voted against MLK Day.
Yeah, I remember
twice.
that. Yeah.
And it almost like, when I see this, I think that people are going to look back on people like McCain and Bush the same way people look back on Reagan. They think of him as this positive, overwhelmingly great person, and they're almost unaware of the negatives.
Well, a large part of Reagan's legacy is the result of the Reagan Legacy Project. After he died, a bunch of very wealthy people got together and put a bunch of money into this. Literally, this project was called the Reagan Legacy Project. And they set out to erect a statue or name a building or a street after Ronald Reagan in every single congressional district in the United States and in every country around the world that essentially does business with the United States. And I think they accomplished their goal as of like 8 years ago or something like that. It took a while to get,
I saw your Tear Down the Smith video where he was told as being the greatest president of all time.
Right. Right, and that's a carefully crafted fiction that was created by these guys because, he was the first president since Warren Harding who inflicted what I refer to as Reaganism or trickle-down economics. George Herbert Walker Bush called it voodoo economics. Really, it's libertarian or neoliberal economics. And Warren Harding did that to us in 1920. It was continued by Coolidge.
Back here in Kansas.
Yep, it was continued by Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover inherited the result of it with the Great Crash in 1929, and then Reagan did that to us in the early 1980s, and we haven't seen the Great Crash yet, but what we have seen is the middle class get wiped out, or a large chunk of it, probably about a third of it. So this is the gossification, of history, Scott. That's absolutely what it is. Scott, thanks for the call and thanks for watching us in Kansas. There, Rob in Sky Mill, Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Guys Mills, yeah, Tom.
Okay, Guys Mills. What's up?
Thanks for taking my call. I will try to raise you some money this weekend.
No, the money goes to Free Speech TV, not to me. So.
Well, that's the same thing. But anyways, I want people to know this is the most important station out there. I'm mad about Trump care and associated with free speech. I'm going to call for a bill that free speech has to come from your mouth and cannot be propaganda like Fox News broadcasts because they have created a society of mentally ill.
So you're objecting, Rob, it sounds like, to the 1976 and 77 Buckley and First National Bank decisions by the Supreme Court that said, first off, that billionaires, if they spend money to get people elected or to get laws passed, that's called free speech and it's protected by the First Amendment. And then in the Bellotti decision, it was if corporations want to spend money on free, and that's considered free speech. And then, of course, from the 70s right to today in 2010, Citizens United doubled down on that and expanded it considerably. And then in 2013, McCutcheon even blew up the number of politicians. It used to be you could only wholly own a couple of hundred politicians. And they said, if a billionaire wants to own 400 or 500 politicians, that's fine. He can own the state legislature of Utah and Wyoming. Yeah, that's all good. That's what you're objecting to, Rob.
Exactly. But the thing is, Fox News is promoting propaganda that has brought us these healthcare policies.
Yep.
And it's creating a bunch of mentally ill. My buddy is dead now. He was 59 years old, and he had his credit destroyed by buying one of these Trump care policies, and it covered nothing.
Whoa.
And
what happened? What was the story?
Well, he was developing some kind of problem. He said water was coming out of his legs. And I told him, I says, what you're describing to me sounds like heart disease. I says, you need to go to a good hospital and go to an internal medicine immediately before you end up dead.
Right, so he was getting edema. His legs were swelling. His circulation couldn't drain the water out of his legs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he went to a hospital that both his parents died at that he didn't like, and he got $6,000 worth of debt from the local doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, he didn't want to go to another hospital, and he was worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he was a GOP. He wanted to be more rich to retire next year, and I tried to convince him to retire, but because he was afraid to go to another hospital and he worked 7 days a week, it cost him his life.
And he had a junk insurance policy. What, did he die of a heart attack?
His daughter said they said natural causes, but I know that if they check it out,
heart failure is a natural
Yeah.
cause. I mean, it's not homicide or suicide. So that's real unfortunate, Rob. I'm so sorry to hear the story of your friend. And yeah, Fox News and Right Wing Hate Radio are out there. They don't want the message out that tomorrow is the last day you can sign up for the Affordable Care Act, for Obamacare. And by the way, the price of the policies this year is lower than it was last year. I mean, Obamacare actually works, in as much as it's using for-profit insurance. And they just don't want anybody to know about this, and neither does the Trump administration. Rob, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, come on, give me a break. Are you kidding? We'll be right back. And welcome back. Bryce in Glendale, California, watching us on YouTube. Hey, Bryce, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Basically, I started watching your channel about 6 months ago. I voted Democrat for the first time. I've been a Republican my entire life. I voted for Trump. I voted for Romney.
Wow, you've got some penance to do here, Bryce.
Yeah, but basically when I watch your shows, it's made me understand how clear it is. I just voted for them because I thought that they're the most American people, but they're anti-American and treasonous in their trade policies because they want to outsource our jobs overseas, and it just shows that GM and Harley-Davidson now, even since they're leaving, they're the ones that are treasonous against this country for doing that.
Yeah, I agree. But see, the reality is that the only reason that Harley and are building a factory in Thailand, as I recall, and maybe one in India, and the GM is just built another factory in Mexico, and they're shutting down the factories here. The only reason they're doing that is because policies enacted by the House and Senate and signed into law by presidents make that a profitable business decision.
Yeah.
And those policies could be reversed any time. And Donald Trump campaigned on reversing those policies, which is why a lot of well-intentioned people like yourself voted for him. And now, the whole, I'm going to fix NAFTA thing. Yeah, right. The tiniest tweak, an irrelevant tweak, essentially. And the other policies, if you want to have tariffs, and I think we should go back to a protectionist trade policy. It's been Democratic political, it's been the progressive and Democratic political position for a century. It's what FDR did. We should do that. But you have to do it legislatively. You can't do it by executive order. You do it by executive order, it only lasts until you're out of office. And nobody's going to build a factory on the belief that Donald Trump is going to be president for the next 20 years. It ain't going to happen.
No.
Back to you, Bryce.
I hope he loses. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot for the call, Bryce. Nice to hear from you. Jay in Hilo, Hawaii. Hey, Jay, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning, Tom. I was just listening to your interview with the Mnuchin guy. And
right, David Bryce.
Yeah.
Or Diane, excuse me. Dan.
It seemed to me that Lee was getting buried as the corporate Democrats and Kamala Harris just kind of let him go. She had him dead to rights, and
I was going to ask, he said for a variety of reasons, and I almost interjected at that point to say what were the reasons, and then I thought, well, if it was anything kind of corrupt or obvious or something, he would certainly be mentioning it, but I should have asked that question. You're right, Jay.
Well, it seemed to me his book was about catching a guy that already been, he's obviously what he is, he's a criminal, but
at least morally,
Kamala Harris is,
but apparently legally too, with the robo-signing and lying about it. I mean, that's a crime too.
Exactly, and it's caused harm that isn't going to be recovered from in the state of California for decades.
Well, and as
We're gonna
Treasury
be-
Secretary, how long is it going to be whacking the United States, these insane economic policies?
Well, he'll be gone soon, but Kamala Harris could be there soon as well. And she's getting paid by the same guys that are paying Mnuchin. Wall Street is paying her too.
Well, I just don't know, and I haven't read his book, and I don't want to, come down on Kamala Harris until I know something about it. And in fact, Sean, maybe you can send a note to David asking him to clarify exactly what happened there, and I'll mention it on the air. We'll do that next week. Jay, thanks a lot for the call, or maybe we'll get David back on if there's something that's of great substance there. It's a tangent or a rabbit hole that I should have jumped. I should have run down. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Jeremy in Lawrence, Kansas. Hey, Jeremy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to put some more Mnuchin data onto the table, but I wanted to do it in a larger context of looking at this Trump operation, really, both the foreign influence operation, but also the domestic influence operation, as in some ways actually a continuity of some of the people who were involved in the Iran-Contra operation back in the 80s. And actually, that should have been called the Iran Bush gang Israel Contra Gate operation.
Well,
really.
and let's not forget that was the deal that Bill Casey cut with the Ayatollah that allowed Ronald Reagan to get elected. The just trashed the Carter presidency, holding those hostages for 444 days because Reagan had said, or Bill Casey, his campaign manager, then Reagan made him CIA director. Then the day that he was supposed to testify about this before Congress, he was struck down with a paralytic attack in his office at the director of the CIA, taken to Walter Reed, or taken to Bethesda rather, and the part of his brain, the left temporal lobe that controls speech, Broca's region, was cut out. They surgically essentially cut out his tongue, and then he died about 6 weeks later. I mean, it's a bizarre story. But anyhow, back to you, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Yes, and that's a very interesting point. And though I don't want to get into too much of the evidence behind it, there is even a deeper story about the Iran hostage situation and Bush gang CIA involvement in the installation of Khomeini himself. People can go look at an article called The Real Iran Hostage Crisis, a CIA covert op by
Jeremy, we just have 2 seconds. You wanted to make a final point about Mnuchin?
Yeah, well,
Quickly.
Mnuchin bought into Rat Pack Dune Entertainment, and then when he got into Trump to be the head of the Treasury, he was then replaced by one Leonard Blavatnik, a key Russian Putin oligarch, also UK, U.S. citizen tied into Netanyahu, who is at this point also in investigations of corruption that are the very similar type of networks that surround Trump. So this really should be called Mobgate or Russia-Israeli neoconservative 2.0 gate here.
That's interesting. Yeah, I get it. And sorry, I misread my time cue. Excellent points all, and one of the top stories in the Washington Post, literally right now, if you go to their website, is that the Mueller investigation is going global, and specifically, it's going global into the Middle East. So I'm guessing they're looking at money from Israel, money from Saudi Arabia, possibly money from Doha, from the United Arab Emirates, from Qatar, money coming in from those sources illegally to the Trump campaign. To the Trump inaugural fund. This is the $140 million that they raised, or $104 million, one or the other, that, they can't quite account for, that apparently Melania Trump gave $25 million to her best friend and, to run the thing, which is bizarre. It's coming out, Jeremy. I don't think it's going to stop. Thanks a lot for calling. Chris in Buffalo, New York. Hey, Chris, what's up?
Hi. I just got something quick for Anything Goes Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently lost my mother. We buried her on Tuesday.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And no, thank you. But what I was calling about was I got to spend a lot of time with both my parents, both my dad and my mother, and my dad's 85, and my mom's was 82. And so, like, when my mom, she was in, like, a lot of hospitals and rehab and then finally in hospice, and they always asked her all these questions, like my age, her name, you know, the date, stuff like that. Every single time they got to who is the president of the United States, she would screw up her face and go, "Oh, Trump." And
this is a way of finding out if she was in cognitive decline.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it was hilarious because everybody just thought it was so funny, you know. And my dad and me would sit around and watch TV in the morning, and he would just get so aggravated when Trump came on, and he made me take him to vote because he can't drive anymore. And he got there with his walker, and you know, had to rest halfway. But boy, he wanted to make sure because he is in Collins district. I'm not. Chris Collins district, and he wanted to vote that guy out. He goes, "I want to vote Chris Collins out." And
oh my,
you know, we talked a lot about politics. My mom and me, you know, it really upset her about the kids being separated at the border. And I was thinking, you know, even in their states that both of them are in, they still were kind of politically aware and trying to do what they could, you know, despite the fact that they were either sick or you
just
know,
old. Yeah, I really think that all across America, people are getting the gravity of this situation. We saw, you know, triple the participation rate among millennials in the last election, 2018 versus 2016. And we're seeing, like, you know, these stories, Chris, like you're telling, of people in their 80s and 90s even, who are going out of their way to vote. Unfortunately, you live in a blue state, but in many of the red states, if somebody like your father showed up to vote, they would say, "You don't have a current driver's license. We are not going to let you vote," because the Republicans do not want Social Security and Medicare voters voting. So, I mean, there's a lot of states where if you don't have a current driver's license, it's tough. You're out of luck.
Yeah, because they didn't ask him for a driver's license at all. They just let him.
Yeah. See, that would not have happened in Florida or Louisiana or someplace like that. Chris, I got to move along, but thank you for the call, and thanks for sharing the anecdote, the story. Susie in Vaughan, Washington, listening on KBCS. Hey, Susie, we have a minute to the break. What's up?
Hi, I just wanted to say real quick, my passion is climate change, and I'm trying to get people aware of it in a more positive manner in that I thank them ahead of time for participating in helping to save the earth, whether they believe it or not. And yesterday I had to tell a girlfriend who is a bit of a denier, I said, "You know, sweetie, I've loved you for 20 years, and I will continue to love you." I said, "But things are changing. Our world is changing around us, and if you don't believe it now, in 3 to 5 years, you're not going to have a choice, and we'll still be there to have you join us because we're going to need all the help we can get. So think about it." And so I'm just trying to make it more positive to people that, you know, thank you for what you're going to do. Whether they believe it or not, at least it gives them something to think about.
Yeah, and that's a nice way to talk to friends and family, you know, particularly with the holidays coming up.
Yeah, well, I do it to my customers, too, because I work in a huge retail firm. And whenever they pass through, I say, "Hey, thanks for taking care of Mother Earth. I appreciate it."
That's
You'll
great.
appreciate it, too.
That's great. Susie, keep up the great work.
We try.
There
Bye.
you go. Thanks a lot for the call, and have a great weekend. We'll be right back. It's Anything Goes Friday on the Thom Hartmann Program. And I think we're done with our... Oh, no. We've got Jerome Corsi coming up. That's right. We're going to talk to Jerry Corsi. Into the brains of the belly of the beast. The guy who invented Swift boats and Obama's birth certificate right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but you know, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now. So we have now, we know, a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it, but you know, in a real and meaningful context, what does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do here on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual, you know, conversations, reporting about the actual criminality that has been going on, not just in this White House, but that has been going on for a long, long time, frankly, coming out of the White House. And these are conversations that we need to have. And so many of the conversations that we need to have, you know, the role of the oligarchs. You know, had it not been for the Koch brothers, Trump never would have been elected. For that matter, had it not been for the Koch brothers, probably the last several Republican presidents would never have been elected. If it wasn't for Rupert Murdoch, you wouldn't have a right-wing, you know, billionaire Rupert Murdoch looking out for the billionaire class. You wouldn't have a right-wing machine that so dominates American politics that just crazy stuff gets out there constantly. And you know, people end up going to pizzerias and shooting them up. I mean, it's just, this is, anyhow, we talk about those things here. If you want to keep this network on the air, if you want to keep this kind of programming alive, you have to call now, 877-378-8669. It's Friday. Let's end the week with a big one, okay? 877-378-8669. We are way behind on meeting our goals. We need your help. We had an okay day yesterday. We didn't use up the whole match. We didn't accomplish that, and the match is gone. But you know, we still have you, right? And if you can call now and make a pledge, it would be a big deal. 877-378-8669 with a $20 gift. Free Speech TV will send you a window sticker that you can put in your car or your front window or whatever. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic mug with my picture on it and tag you're it. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. This is probably the #1 book that I've written. It's been translated into, I believe, 17 languages on 5 continents. And this is new and updated and some pretty shocking information in it. $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt and the sticker. With a $240 gift, you can attend the NLP and personal growth webinar that Louise and I are putting together. And you'll get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, there's a 5-book special. Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. All the books by me, by the way, will have an autographed plate in them. They'll all be autographed books. With a $480 gift, or $40 a month for a year, you get all 5 books. You get the t-shirt, You get the sticker, you get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's basically everything. You get everything. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and we'll have a meet and greet. We'll, hang out here for the last hour of the show, and you can watch the show, being, it's not recorded, it's live, being performed, I guess is the word, being done, whatever. And then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and we'll have a very nice day. So those are, the goodies that Free Speech TV is offering. But the bottom line is this network is doing really important work. I mean, really important work. There are not a lot of progressive media voices out there. And the few that we have tend to occupy, more obscure niches. They tend to pop up on YouTube, or they're over on a website like Think Progress that literally Google refuses to spider. They refuse to include in their search engine results. Alternet and Think Progress and MediaMatters.org. They've all been hit with this. They've been essentially censored by Google. And then the right-wingers go in and they get the president of Google on and they say, why are you censoring right-wing sites? Well, we don't really censor right-wing sites, just Nazi sites and left-wing sites. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on in this country right now. If you want to preserve progressive media and help it grow, as I said, the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that come February, we're going to have at least one, maybe two, maybe even 3 new shows on this network. And one of them in particular, well, 2 of them actually in particular, I know the hosts, and they're going to be spectacular if we can pull this off. Wouldn't you like to have a really great show bumping out of the end of my show? So there's, another couple hours of really great progressive programming that's live that you can interact with. Call now, 877-378-8669.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
So The Hangman by Henry Oster.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's Anything Goes Friday, although we are going to start this hour. We just had a fascinating conversation in the last hour with David Dayen, who just wrote this brilliant piece on Steve Mnuchin and, what's up with Steve Mnuchin and all that kind of stuff. And but right now on the line with us is Dr. Jerome Corsi, the author of several books, including his most recent, it just came out, Silent No More, How I Became a Political Prisoner of Mueller's Witch Hunt. His website is CorsiNation.com. You can tweet him at Jerome_Corsi, C-O-R-S-I. Jerry, welcome back to the program.
Tom, good to be back with you. Thank you.
I got a couple of serious questions for you, and I want to get into some. And for people who don't know who you are, let me just you were the author of the book on Swift Boat veterans that essentially took down John Kerry. You were the author of the book on Obama's birth certificate that animated Donald Trump and created this whole thing. You wrote a book about the coming merger with Mexico and Canada, the 9/11 Truth Movement, Hitler, a lot of interesting things. And you've had a very, very consequential impact on American politics, particularly that 2004 election, the John Kerry election. And, you and I are on opposite sides of all these things, obviously, but you have had a really substantial impact on the national debate and on the Republican Party. That said, you were, I believe the charge against you is the Mueller is going after you that has something to do with Julian Assange. What do you think was in it for Julian Assange helping the Trump campaign? Was it just, hatred of Hillary Clinton, or was it he thought this would be the biggest story ever? Or, I mean, what was his deal?
I guess you'll have to ask Julian Assange, and I don't agree with your assumption that he was trying to help Donald Trump. I mean, at any rate, that was not the issue I'm dealing with, Tom. The issue I'm dealing with is that I went in, I was subpoenaed to go before the Mueller grand jury on August 28th. I went in voluntarily to assist them. I turned over my computers. I had a time machine application on the laptop, the Apple laptop I've been using, It backed up my computer 4 times a month completely in 2016 and 2017. I handed that over. Even when I quit using the computer, I didn't throw away the computer in the time machine. I kept them and handed them over. I handed over all of my email accounts, usernames, and passwords. I handed over my Verizon accounts, even though, signed permission for them to get my Verizon phone numbers, even though Verizon wouldn't give me my own phone numbers without a court order. So I went in to be fully cooperative. And after 40 hours, the last half of this was a nightmare, especially because I could not give the special counselor what they desperately wanted. They had assumed that I was the link between Roger Stone and Julian Assange, and their theory, which was clear, was that it was going to be, Roger Stone, Jerry Corsi of all people, and then Assange, and WikiLeaks, and then Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, and Donald Trump, and that was their collusion link for their
right. And you're asserting that you're not that. You're asserting that you are not that link.
I don't know Julian Assange. I've never spoken with, communicated with, emailed, written. I have no communication with Julian Assange or WikiLeaks, and I have no intermediary.
Yeah. Well, if you're innocent, Jerry, I hope that you don't suffer the consequences. But let me share with you a clip. This is from Rachel Maddow's Bagman podcast, and it is the Vice President of the United States saying on the record, and he did this several times, and he even wrote about it in his book, that he believed that the President of the United States was capable, and in fact maybe even intended, to hire a hit squad to kill him. This is Spiro Agnew talking about Richard Nixon.
Agnew says he left because of a death threat from the White House. He quotes Nixon Chief of Staff Alexander Haig urging him to resign with the words, "The president has a lot of power. Don't forget that." Agnew writes that the remarks sent a chill through his body. He took it as an innuendo that anything could happen. He might have, in Agnew's words, a convenient accident, an interpretation that even today he refuses to disown.
And here's Agnew.
I didn't know what General Haig meant when he said anything may be in the offing. Things may get nasty and dirty. There's no doubt in my mind that these things are possible. I don't say it was a probability, but I do say it was a possibility.
You think then that there were men around Richard Nixon, either in the White House staff or in the official mechanism of the CIA, who were capable of killing a vice president of the United States if they felt he was an embarrassment?
I don't doubt that at all.
So there you go. Do you think that, it seems that a number of people who have come into or spun out of the orbit of Donald Trump are acting rather frightened. Is this kind of conversation going, which was a very real concern of Spiro Agnew's, that Nixon might order him killed because of what he knew. Is this kind of stuff floating around with regard to Trump?
Wait, you're asking me if, what are you asking me, Tom? I'm not sure.
I'm asking you if you or anybody in these circles that are implicated in these Trump crimes are concerned that a guy who has been doing business with the mob for years and years might have, might order you killed.
I disagree with your characterization of Donald Trump as with the mobs, but at any rate, I have no knowledge, and certainly I've not been threatened, and I'm not worried about a hit squad being called on me. I'm not concerned about any of that.
And you don't think any of these other guys are either? You don't think that Roger Stone is worried about that?
I didn't take the mind reading course at Harvard. It's a bad mistake.
Well, you know Roger Stone, don't you?
Yeah, but I certainly have not asked that question, Roger. Why don't you ask that question?
If you want to come on the show, I'd be glad to.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So you are not concerned that if well, I guess because you're taking the side of the president here also, aren't you? I mean, you're not doing this because you're afraid of him?
Tom, I think the whole question is preposterous. I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. I'm not afraid of anybody, Tom. Not afraid of you. Not afraid of anybody.
Well, suing the federal government for hundreds of millions of dollars sort of reinforces that bad guy notion, I suppose. Are you concerned, Jerry, that I mean, you're taking on the people who are trying to take you on, and you're suing them for basically, you say, trying to force you to lie about this connection between Assange and Roger Stone.
Yes, that's one of the allegations. There are others, but yes, that's one of them.
It's not real common that people who are the targets of a criminal investigation, and clearly you are, that people who are the targets of criminal investigation would go out and preemptively sue the police who are looking into them. I mean, it just seems like that's
Tom,
that's going to end as a train wreck, Jerry.
Tom, you're also wrong. I was not a target of the investigation.
Well, why do they come and pick up all your
over,
stuff?
Well, if you let me explain it, Tom. Over and over, the special prosecutor team and the FBI said, I'm not a target. They wanted me for testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And I was giving them, honestly, everything I could give them. They now say they wanted me to, when they couldn't get what they wanted, they blew it all up. I mean, I kept saying over and over again. They even allowed me to amend my testimony multiple times because I told them my memory of 2016 is not good. I'm not a human tape recorder. You can't push a button and have me remember a specific conversation or a specific email in 2016. I can't do it. And
so you were, in your amendments, you were adding to things that you had said as opposed to saying, oh, that was wrong, here's my correction of it.
My amendment, we're saying that was wrong, here's my correction.
Okay, did you lie the first time?
No, Tom. First day, I could not reload my 2016 emails. I had this broken down 17-inch laptop, wouldn't work anymore. I didn't want to change its status when I quit using it in 2018. I handed it over. Said, I haven't looked at my 2016 emails.
Yeah.
First day, they asked me a question. They say, did you want somebody to go see Julian Assange? I said, no. Well, they pull out this email from 2016 in July when I was in Italy on my 25th wedding anniversary with my wife and family, and Roger Stone sent me an email, said, someone needs to go to see Assange, and over 20 seconds, I pass it on to Ted Malik in London. That said, Ted from Roger, Jerry. I gave it very little thought. I forgot the email. Now,
and that has come back to haunt you.
Go home,
Jerry,
home and look at your email. Tom, let me finish. You want to ask a question? You let me.
Well,
answer.
we only have a minute and a half left.
Well, I don't care, Tom. I'm going to answer it.
I do have a question for you, though.
I looked at my emails, Tom. I looked at my emails. I saw it. I came back and said I was wrong. They accepted the amendment.
Okay. If I'm in the prosecutor's office, if I'm in Mueller's office, and I'm looking at you as a witness, this is a guy who lied about the Obama birth certificate, who lied about John Kerry's military service.
I disagree with all those characterizations.
Well, they're characterized as lies. Why should they trust you if you have been basically, peddling these, you can call them whatever you want, but things that don't seem to be true?
Well, Tom, you just validated one of the key points of my silent no more. They were persecuting me because they disagreed with me politically. And I think that's out of bounds and it's unacceptable. And that's one of the reasons I filed a criminal complaint against the Department of Justice on the Mueller investigation and why I filed a $350 million lawsuit against them in federal court.
Yeah. And you really don't think that this is that you're cooking your own goose, that you're going to be in trouble here?
I'm going to pursue these because this, I believe, what I'm doing is true.
And this is not because you're trying to protect Trump?
No, Trump can take care of himself.
If Trump is guilty of these campaign violations, the campaign finance violations that have been, that Michael Cohen just pled guilty to, do you think he should go to prison or be impeached?
Any person in the United States who's guilty of a crime should face the consequences and go to prison. That includes the President of the United States, no matter who the President.
So are you, Jerry Corsi, calling for Trump to go to jail if he's actually convicted of these crimes?
I'm calling for Mueller to quit running a politically motivated and operating in a criminal prosecutorial misconduct mode, both of which I'm alleging, and I intend to prove either in that criminal complaint I filed with the Department of Justice or in the lawsuit I filed in the Federal District Court.
Yeah. Well, it's going to get very, very interesting. Dr. Jerome Corsi, his new book is where to go here? Silent No More. Thank you, Jerry. Silent No More: How I Became a Political Prisoner of Mueller's Witch Hunt. CorsiNation.com, and you can tweet him at Jerome_Corsi. Jerry, good luck. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah,
we'll be right back.
Tom.
Yep, we'll be right back. Oh, and happy holidays. We'll be right back. It's 20, coming up on 19 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
18 and a half minutes past the hour. We'll be back with your calls and your thoughts on all of this. What do you Jerry Corsi, really? Right after this. And welcome back. Danny watching Free Speech TV in Hulbert, Oklahoma. Hey, Danny, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I'm amazed. I get to talk to you. I watch you, I followed you. You're amazing. The 15-year-old girl, the Swedish gal at the climate summit that talked to the people that gave a summation.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I have not seen it. I've heard about it 2 or 3 times now, and I keep, it's on my list of things to do. The next time I get home and I've got 10 minutes, but I haven't gotten to it.
Well, if you could show that, I was crying, and then
Really?
then she showed it again. This is a 15-year-old girl that's talking to the centers of power and telling them, if you've been wrong, you need to admit it.
Yeah.
And if you've gone down the right path, you need to change your path. And I have never in my life seen such a brave human being speak to the centers of power and just basically put them on their butts. It was,
wow.
I was
Nate,
so inspired.
Yeah,
by this
Danny,
15-year-old girl.
Nate, our video director, if you can find a publicly, a non-copyrighted version of that we can share on the air on Monday, that would be really cool. Danny, thank you.
I will do that.
No, you don't need to do it, Danny. Nate is going to do it. I was speaking to him, kind of off air, I suppose, but I think this is, you pushed me over the edge. This is the 3rd or 4th time I've heard about this young woman's speech, and I've got to check it out. So I'll do that over the weekend, and we'll talk about it on Monday. Danny, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. Jim in Chicago. Hey, Jim, what's up? Excuse me, Mike in Chicago.
Yeah, how you doing, Tom? How are you?
I'm well. What's up, Mike?
Last year, Rachel Maddow did a piece on a deal that Trump's daughter did in Azerbaijan. The building was erected. The building was not completed. It was abandoned, and the field was abandoned. That's one of the deals that they're not talking about, and I really hope that Rachel brings that one back up.
Now, my recollection is this was a deal where Trump walked off with a lot of money and the thing fell apart.
That's right. That's right.
Interesting. Azerbaijan, all of these, go ahead, Mike.
If it's possible, you can find out and you can speak on that a little more. I would really appreciate it. Thank you, Tom.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Mike. Interesting. I will have to look into that. Jim in Sacramento, California. Hey, Jim, thanks for watching Free Speech. What's up?
Good morning, Tom. Earlier you were talking about the IndyMac bankruptcy and
Steve Mnuchin
involved with that. And I happened to buy a house at that time, 2009, and it came available as a foreclosure because IndyMac went bust. So then I guess One West ended up with that portfolio, but they demanded to get the loan applications to them so that they would have that paper. But in my case, they eventually refused to do it, but I found another bank that did. And that was in April of 2009, which in backward looking at it, it was actually the bottom.
Right.
And at that moment, in this area, this is Natomas area, and there was about, I would say 95% of this neighborhood was in foreclosure.
Wow.
And this had been the first transaction in over 2 years. So they were throttling back even the sale.
Wow.
Now, then the market stayed down for 6 months, 8 months after that.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you had black.
Yeah. Jim, I got to run. I'm sorry. Thank you for the call. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Eric in Chico, California. Hey, Eric, what's up?
All right, how you doing, Tom?
Good. You like Trump?
Well, I don't like him. I mean, I didn't vote for him. I can't, but now I can vote because now they let felons vote. But I don't think he did that bad of a job for a guy who should have been president and who shouldn't have been even chosen. But he did pretty good, I thought.
What did he do that was good, Eric?
Well, like the wall and
he hasn't built a wall.
Those two. Well, he's not doing it yet. Well, I thought he was, but I know the economy's.
No, he's lying about it. He's pointing to walls that were built, in the California border back, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and pointing to some walls that were built in the Arizona border, 30 years ago, 20 and 30 years ago. But he has, in fact, in the last appropriations bill, or the year before last, Congress appropriated almost $1 billion for wall building, and Trump never spent it. He never got around to spending it.
So in other words, he's just making money. Then, in other words, what he's doing, like every
he's a hustler.
Every rich person is just trying to make money, and
he's a grifter. Rich. Come on, Eric. This guy's a grifter. He's, there's a reason why he lies 10, 12 times a day. That's what grifters do.
The economy's doing good, though, right?
Say what?
The economy's doing good, though.
Oh, yeah, it has been ever since 2009, ever since Obama came into office, and Trump has been just riding the tail end of that. If you look at the economy, whether you're looking at unemployment, whether you're looking at the stock market, whether you're looking at GDP, if you look at it in a 9-year window and look at the graphs that way, what you'll see is that Trump isn't quite doing as well as Obama did. It's starting to fade out. The Obama boom is starting to fade out now, and part of that fade out that's happening is because of the damage that Trump is doing.
Well, I was hearing that Trump's not going to get impeached because of why he got, because he had money and how he has power. He won't get impeached at all.
Why?
And
where'd you hear that?
He has, from other people, and not my cousins and family members, all of them.
Uh-huh.
But I don't believe it because I figure he will get impeached because what's his name did wrong. I mean, and told about him and the girl he's with and everything.
Well, it's quite obvious right now that he is only president because of fraud. If the public had known during the Republican primary, if Jeb Bush or any of the candidates, the serious candidates, Ted Cruz, had been able to pull out of their back pocket during one of those debates, well, Donald, you were having an affair with a Playboy bunny for a full year after your most recent child was born. There's no way the Republicans would have given him the nomination. So, it sure looks to me like the guy is president by virtue of fraud, and as a result of that, not only should he be impeached, but all the judges that he has appointed should be impeached as well. Eric, thanks for the call. I hate to burst your bubble, but thanks for a very well-intentioned call. We'll be back. It's 27 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Anything Goes Friday. We'll be back with your calls and more of the news of the day right after this. So we know, a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it. But, in a real and and meaningful context. What does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do hear on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual, conversations, reporting about the actual criminality that has been going on, not just in this White House, but that has been going on for a long, long time, frankly, coming out of the White House. And these are conversations that we need to have. And so many of the conversations that we needed to have, the role of the oligarchs, had it not been for the Koch brothers, Trump never would have been elected. For that matter, had it not been for the Koch brothers, probably the last several Republican presidents would never have been elected. If it wasn't for Rupert Murdoch, you wouldn't have a right-wing, billionaire Rupert Murdoch looking out for the billionaire class. You wouldn't have a right-wing machine that so dominates American politics that just crazy stuff gets out there constantly. And people end up going to pizzerias and shooting them up. I mean, it's just, anyhow, we talk about those things here. If you want to keep this network on the air, if you want to keep this kind of programming alive, you have to call now, 877-378-8669. It's Friday. Let's end the week with a big one, okay? 877-378-8669. We are way behind on meeting our goals. We need your help. We had an okay day yesterday. We didn't use up the whole match. We didn't accomplish that, and the match is gone. But we still have you, right? And if you can call now and make a pledge, it would be a big deal. 877-378-8669 with a $20 gift. Free Speech TV will send you a window sticker that you can put in your car or your front window or whatever. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic mug with my picture on it and tag you're it. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. This is probably the #1 book that I've written. It's been translated into, I believe, 17 languages on 5 continents. And this is new and updated and some pretty shocking information in it. $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV sticker, t-shirt and the sticker. With a $240 gift, you can attend the NLP and personal growth webinar that Louise and I are putting together. And you'll get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, there's a 5-book special. Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. All the books by me, by the way, will have an autographed plate in them. They'll all be autographed books. With a $480 gift, or $40 a month for a year, you get all 5 books. You get the t-shirt, you get the sticker, you get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's basically everything. You get everything. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and we'll have a meet and greet. We'll hang out here for the last hour of the show, and you can watch the show. It's not recorded. It's live. Being performed, I guess is the word. Being done, whatever. And then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and we'll have a very nice day. So those are the goodies that Free Speech TV is offering. But the bottom line is this network is doing really important work. I mean really important work. There are not a lot of progressive media voices out there. And the few that we have tend to occupy, more obscure niches. They tend to pop up on YouTube, or they're over on a website like Think Progress that literally Google refuses to spider. They refuse to include in their search engine results. Alternet and Think Progress and MediaMatters.org. They've all been hit with this. They've been essentially censored by Google. And then the right-wingers go in and they get the president of Google on and they say, why are you censoring right-wing sites? Well, we don't really censor right-wing sites, just Nazi sites and left-wing sites. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on in this country right now. If you want to preserve progressive media and help it grow, as I said, the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that come February, we're going to have at least 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 new shows on this network. And one of them in particular, well, 2 of them actually in particular, I know the hosts, and they're going to be spectacular if we can pull this off. Wouldn't you like to have a really great show bumping out of the end of my show? So there's, another couple hours of really great progressive programming that's live that you can interact with. Call now, 877-378-8669.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Anything Goes Friday. What a day, huh? Paul in Chicago. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Oh, hi, Tom. I didn't realize I was going to be up next. I just wanted to talk about Corsi briefly. I know that you don't like talking about people once they're gone, but
I don't like to trash people when they're not here to defend themselves. But having a conversation about
I just can't believe somebody can walk around in a complete bubble of delusion. And I don't know if it's earnest on his part or what have you. And he can spread these rumors and lies as if it were true, very much like Trump. And
I don't think he can go any farther with this one, though, Paul. I mean, he could run around and say, Obama's birth certificate is a phony, or John Kerry wounded himself in Vietnam in order to get medals and BS like that. But when he says that Mueller is essentially trying to blackmail him or force him, use a force of law to force him to incriminate, Roger Stone or Julian Assange, and he can prove that he didn't and he wasn't part of it, then, A, he's got a case, or B, if he doesn't have a case, if this is all, just another Jerry Corsi manufactured fantasy, he's going to go to prison.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how these people get carte blanche to control the dialogue and create this mythology, and then this is something we all have to listen to as if it were true. It just it
well, it's the right wing machine, Paul. You get these.
No, I get it, but you would think there'd be some way of calling them on their stuff, and I realize there's no media to speak of except the independent media like yourself, a handful of other people, but it's really troubling that this is where we're at. You can't actually get dialogue about things that are what truth is. Truth is not gray. Truth is truth. I mean, things are or they aren't. Yes, there could be delineation in people's opinions, but some things are just plain out not false.
Yeah, and it may be that Jerry Corsi is telling the truth. If so, it would be the first time out of all of his various books, in my opinion, and I've said that to his face, and he responded to it. So I don't think I'm breaking my own rule.
I don't want to pick on him. He's just part of a subculture. It's disturbing that this is the best we can do in this country at this time. It's just like, I don't know. I have teenage kids, 3 teenage daughters, and I fear for their future. I fear for their world. I look at what we're doing to the environment, the things that are happening around us, and we're just ignoring them.
Yeah.
And we got this circus show going on, pretending this is all, I don't know. It's disturbing. Well, that's all I can say. Yeah. I'm not being very good expressing myself.
No, I'm with you. The freak show that's going on in Washington is I was going to say intimidating. That's the wrong word. It makes disturbing. Disturbing. It makes me concerned for my country as well. Paul, I need to move along. Thanks a lot for the call, Paul. I got to catch some more callers here. Melanie in Spring Valley, California. Hey, Melanie, you wanted to ask me what crimes did Trump commit?
Yes.
Well, it certainly looks, if Michael Cohen's testimony in federal court under oath, to which he pled guilty, for which he's going to jail, is true, and Mueller has asserted that not only is Michael Cohen telling the truth, but that he's one of multiple sources of that truth, then Donald Trump and David Pecker, the head of American media, conspired back in 2015 when he started his primary campaign, conspired to suppress the story about Karen McDougal, that he'd had a year-long affair with the Playboy bunny that started in the weeks after his son was born, his most recent son, Barron, and that he conspired with Michael Cohen and perhaps this lawyer Davidson, to suppress the Stormy Daniels story, and that apparently came about right after the Access Hollywood tape came out, which was just in the final weeks of the campaign against Hillary Clinton. If that story had come out on as a segue right out of the Access Hollywood tapes, if either of those stories had come out, there's no way he would have won the White House. If either of those stories had come out during the primary, there's no way he would have won the Republican primary. So we've got a guy in the White House right now who committed campaign finance violations that are 5 years in prison each. And at the very least, I mean, that's just that, that one statute. There's maybe others, criminal conspiracy and things like that associated with them, that he committed those crimes, and that because he committed those crimes, his reward was the presidency of the United States. What's not clear about that?
Do you really believe all that?
Well, his lawyer just pled guilty to it in federal court. So, yes, I believe it.
The lawyer's a liar.
Well, okay. So what about the other
And you're
testimony
gonna
that
believe
Mueller
that?
has? What about the evidence that Mueller has? What about the fact that David Pecker and American media, the National Enquirer, have said, yeah, I mean, they've corroborated this. There are multiple sources for this, Melanie.
Well,
Is it that you don't want to believe that? First of all, do you believe that Donald Trump had these two affairs?
It's none of my business what he done before he became president.
But isn't it your business if he conceals it in order to get elected?
Is it illegal to pay?
It is illegal to do it in a way that...
Stormy, why is she being sued by the administration for false allegations?
I didn't know that she was being, and if she is, they're not going to win. The bottom line, though, is that if Donald Trump wants to, be having sex with porn stars and Playboy bunnies, he's welcome to do that all day long. But when you run for president or any political office, and you've got something like that in your past that you are trying to hide, and then you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to bury the story in order to win an election, that's considered a campaign donation. And if campaign donations are not done in a way that is transparent, if they're not revealed, then you're guilty of a crime, Melanie.
What about Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, she was not having sex with somebody and paying to hide it.
Washed under the carpet. She was never.
You cannot name a single crime that Hillary Clinton committed or concealed, Melanie.
Oh my! There's a ton of things out there.
Name one.
Her selling the uranium to Russia.
That she had nothing to do with selling uranium to Russia.
Oh yes, she did.
No, this is a Fox. This is the, Melanie. I'm telling you, you really need to stop watching Fox News. You're believing things that are not true. 5 minutes with a computer, you can search for that. I mean, go look at the Washington Post, New York Times, credible news sources. There's no there. That whole book was nothing but innuendo, and now we know lies. Hillary Clinton has not. I could all day long tell you where I disagree with her on policy, but she has not committed crimes, and she did not pay to cover them up. Donald Trump did commit crimes, and he did pay to cover them up. Melanie, we're talking in circles. I'm going to move along. Dave in Pittsburgh, California. Hey, Dave, what's up? Dave?
Yeah, I'm right here. I just had to mute my phone.
Okay,
so I could talk to you.
Cool. What's up?
Okay. If I heard it correctly on MSNBC this morning, they're trying to push a story through that the ACA Act is going to present problems for people in the Midwest, and so it's going to cost them more money to register. So this has to get out that this is a false claim.
And tomorrow is the last day, by the way, to get your Medicare or your Obamacare account, your Affordable Care Act account. And it's what the Trump administration did is they made it even harder. Healthcare.gov is the website, made it even harder to figure out how to get around it. And they also brought in a private for-profit corporation that is taking your questions and giving you answers that in many cases are not pushing you toward Affordable Care Act products, but rather toward more profitable products from the insurance industry. This is just, it's criminal behavior on the part of this administration. But you're right, Dave, and people need to know about it. John in Algonquin, Illinois. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom. You've got incredible patience there with the caller before the last one. But I'm calling to see if you or somebody in the audience might know that all these this roster of people that are getting fired from the administration, if they're eligible for a federal pension.
if I don't know how that works with regard to being fired. I mean, if you're in charge with a crime or indicted, typically not. You'd have to look at the contract or at the rules, or I don't know the answer to the question, John. Bottom line.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, because that would be a double burn.
Yeah.
If that was the case.
Yeah.
If people are getting paid.
Yeah. I suspect that John Kelly's pension will be just fine if that's the kind of thing that you're talking about. But yeah, I'm pretty sure because he hasn't been convicted of a crime. But I can't say that I know for sure. John, thanks for the call. Donald in Los Angeles. Hey, Donald, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I wanted to talk about how we can collectively beat the odds when we vote. Not an easy thing to do, but people need to learn to stop voting for the lesser of two evils and vote for who they really want.
Right.
This relates to what I talked to you about the other day, the right to vote against someone. Of course, if we had that, this would be an easy thing because, then people would go, well, if I'm afraid of this guy, somebody else can vote against him. I can vote for this candidate that I want.
Right.
The thing is, we're generally taught that our votes are to decide who gets elected. That's not what they're for. They're to make a difference in the possibility. And unfortunately, too many people believe what they're told the possibilities are.
Yeah, no, I get it, Donald. This is why we need ranked choice voting, like they have in Maine now. That worked pretty well in the last election. And we have over 300 communities across the United States that have this. Say what?
Balanced ranked choice voting would make a bigger difference than just ranked choice voting.
Yeah, I'm with you. No preference plus ranked choice voting. There you go. Donald, thank you for the call. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We're going to check in with Talk Media News in just a moment. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
So now we have a staffer on The Celebrity Apprentice saying that Trump was crushing up his Adderall and snorting it, and Tom Arnold has tweeted, yes, that's true. Amazing. And welcome back. Terry in Seattle, Washington. Hey, Terry, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, Terry calling you from Seattle. I got a question. Since this is Anything Goes Friday, a bit of minutia here. I'm going to kind of tickle your memory. I seem to be having a senior moment, I guess. But who was the vice president during the Carter administration? He ran against Reagan, and Reagan just trounced him. And who was the vice president nomination during that election on the Democratic side? And whatever happened to these guys? And I do have one other comment. You were talking about the candidates that we should come up with during the next election cycle. I would go with this guy, O'Brien in Texas.
Yeah, Walter Mondale was Jimmy Carter's vice president.
Mondale, okay, Mondale. And who was his candidate under him for the vice president? Whatever happened to those guys? Is Mondale still alive?
Yeah, he's 90 years old. He lives in Minnesota.
90 years old. What about his vice president candidate under that?
No, Mondale was the vice. The ticket was Carter Mondale.
During the election against Reagan.
Oh, no, he kept Mondale on the ticket. He didn't drop Mondale from the ticket. He kept him on the ticket, and it was a Carter Mondale ticket.
But Mondale later on ran against Reagan on his own, didn't he?
Not sure. Geraldine Ferraro? No.
No, it was. You're right. It was Mondale.
Ferraro. That would have been 84.
That's right.
I'd have to go back and look it up to get it clearly. But
right. Okay. Yeah. Now it's coming back to me. I just couldn't remember this for some reason. Okay, Tom. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks a lot for the call, and we'll continue the conversation here. It was Mondale Ferraro. What year was that? 84? Oh, that's fascinating. Let's see here. Jim in Los Angeles. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Hi, Tom. We are such a divided country now, and there are so few people voting and registered to vote and not fighting for their vote. And I need someone out there to start a pact to register, to fight for the people in the red states whose votes are suppressed. How does that?
That's what Eric Holder is doing right now, you know, Jim?
Who's doing it?
Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the United States. He's created an organization, and I think there's a foundation associated with it, to go into the states and challenge these voting suppression efforts. And it doesn't get much publicity, frankly, because it's not, you know, sexy stuff, and it doesn't have to do with throwing, you know, people in jail, generally speaking. But that's the kind of, you know, deep on the ground work that needs to be done.
Okay, well, let me throw 3 more things out. One, Tom Steyer and next generation. The millennials are waking up. Tom Steyer got 243,000 people to register. And millennials got to realize there is no Green Party. We're a 2-party nation.
Well, there is a Green Party, but if you vote for it, you're voting Republican, at least on the federal level. Jim, thanks for the call. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but you know, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo, Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Well, let's check in with Talk Media News. Luke Vargas on the line with us, the senior foreign correspondent for Talk Media News, and also the author is not the right word, of a new podcast. How would you describe yourself, Luke?
Well, I cover foreign affairs, and every day I put together one audio story, The World in 2 Minutes. You often hear it on this show, and we often talk about the day's story. The one you'll hear today is about the U.S.-Africa policy unveiled by John Bolton yesterday. And today we'll be talking, if your listeners search for World in 2 Minutes or Luke Vargas on wherever you get your podcast later today, we'll be talking about the new third-generation nuclear plant that just went online in China today and what that means for nuclear energy around the world. So there's a lot to listen to.
Wow. Okay, cool. Luke Vargas is with us. Several developments in recent days suggest the U.S.-China trade war is heating up. Tell me about this.
Yeah, I mean, we've got all sorts of developments here. I mean, I was making a list of basically all the big global headlines I was monitoring today, and I found that about 6 or so of the 10 things I wrote down in some way were feeding into really sort of rapidly deteriorating U.S.-China relations, as if they weren't already in a relatively frosty spot. I mean, let's start with the Wall Street Journal, which reports an exclusive this morning that the U.S. Navy has discovered that a whole host of contractors that work for the Navy have been hacked by Chinese hackers over the last 18 months. These include big military contractors and small ones alike. The small ones obviously have a much more difficult time trying to create networks that are impenetrable to foreign hackers. And these hacks have exposed a lot of pretty sensitive stuff, including blueprints for American-made missiles that are quite advanced, which are now in the possession of the Chinese government thanks to these hacks. And the Navy Secretary has apparently ordered a major review of cyber defense vulnerabilities within the U.S. military and in the Navy in particular. The Wall Street Journal also reporting that these recent hacks by the Chinese state of the United States have increased in recent months, and here's a list of the industries they've targeted. It's going to basically be the whole U.S. economy: defense, energy, finance, transportation, and healthcare. And the Wall Street Journal reporting that according to the National Security Administration, that they haven't just been stealing intellectual property, but some of these recent hacks have gone beyond that and aim to actually disrupt American infrastructure. So they're not just sort of going in, taking stuff and leaving, but these hackers are sticking around in these U.S. systems, trying to cause trouble. Not surprisingly, the Wall Street Journal report and the folks they talked to on the record didn't get into details about that. I think there is quite a bit of embarrassment, to put it mildly, at the fact that these cyber incursions have been so successful. Right. But I think it's worth just bearing in mind again that, you know, one might expect if this trade war were somehow approaching an end or some sort of amicable resolution, you would not expect these cyber incursions to be increasing, which is exactly what's been happening. So I think we're quite a ways.
You know, if I were writing a novel about this, Luke, the way that I would play it is, you know, China militarizes the South China Sea. The U.S. goes in and says, you can't do this. You're taking, you know, waters from Vietnam, the Philippines, and Japan, who are our allies. We're going to confront you militarily. We steam some warships into the area, and suddenly Chicago goes brown. The water supply in New York City gets shut down. All the telephone systems in Texas vanish. Hospitals in the Pacific Northwest all go off the grid. The internet shuts down through 15 states. And at that point, you know, and that all happens within 15 minutes of each other. And at that point, Xi is, you know, on the phone to the President of the United States saying, you really want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think...
is that a reasonable scenario?
It may be. I mean, the one sort of constant in interviews I've done on sort of Chinese cyber incursions into the U.S. is that they have been, over the last few years, sort of feeling out vulnerabilities in a host of somewhat sort of what we call soft targets, but that are quite important. I know this includes like
strategic infrastructure.
And dams in upstate New York. I mean, various sort of subtle things which, again, it's not like facilities that are guarded by 100 troops, but they are very vulnerable if targeted. And we haven't really seen major disruptions yet there, but if people are looking for vulnerabilities and if they found them, you just stash that, you know, vulnerability away in a file and, you know, have it in waiting if you someday need to deploy it. So I think that's pretty concerning. And I would point out the other big development is, you know, we've got the situation where the U.S. Sort of ordered the Canadian government to arrest this woman named Meng Wanzhou, the CFO of Huawei, the big Chinese telecom, earlier this month. And we've now seen China over the course of this week arrest 2 Canadian nationals in China, accusing them of, you know, engaging in national security sort of.
So they're going to do a prisoner swap.
Right, and I don't think President Trump has helped here. He's been tweeting out the past few days, hey, you know, maybe we'll drop this extradition request for this woman to get sent to the United States if we can resolve the trade war. And it seems like China said, well, if you're going to take prisoners or talk about the rule of law as something that can be kind of manipulated.
Well, he's also dumping on Canada.
Grab some people too.
He's dumping on Canada. He's saying, you know, we're not going to support our ally and border, you know, country that we share a border with.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Canadian foreign minister just several minutes ago at a joint press conference with Mike Pompeo and Jim Mattis down at the State Department trying to signal some unity between the allies here. But I don't know if we're defending Canada quite as much as we need to be if we're putting them in this difficult situation.
Was that Krista Freeland?
With China. It is, yeah.
Yeah, remarkable. Luke Vargas, Chief Foreign Correspondent for Talk Media News. You can follow him at The Courier on Twitter. Luke, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tom.
Good talking with you. We'll be back with Anything Goes Friday right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
So we have now, we know, a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it. But, you know, in a real and meaningful context, what does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do here on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual, you know, conversations, reporting about the actual criminality that has been going on, not just in this White House, but that has been going on for a long, long time, frankly, coming out of the White House. And these are conversations that we need to have. And so many of the conversations that we need to have, you know, the role of the oligarchs, you know, had it not been for the Koch brothers, Trump never would have been elected. For that matter, had it not been for the Koch brothers, probably the last several Republican presidents would never have been elected. If it wasn't for Rupert Murdoch, you wouldn't have a right-wing, you know, billionaire Rupert Murdoch looking out for the billionaire class. You wouldn't have a right-wing machine that so dominates American politics that just crazy stuff gets out there constantly. And you know, people end up going to pizzerias and shooting them up. I mean, it's just, this is... Anyhow, we talk about those things here. If you want to keep this network on the air, if you want to keep this kind of programming alive, you have to call now, 877-378-8669. It's Friday. Let's end the week with a big one, okay? 877-378-8669. We are way behind on meeting our goals. We need your help. We had an okay day yesterday. We didn't use up the whole match. We didn't accomplish that. And the match is gone, but you know, we still have you, right? And if you can call now and make a pledge, it would be a big deal. 877-378-8669 with a $20 gift. Free Speech TV will send you a window sticker that you can put in your car or your front window or whatever. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic mug with my picture on it and tag you're it. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. This is probably the #1 book that I've written. It's been translated into, I believe, 17 languages on 5 continents. And this is new and updated and some pretty shocking information in it. $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV sticker, T-shirt and the sticker. With a $240 gift, you can attend the NLP and Personal Growth webinar that Louise and I are putting together. And you'll get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, there's a 5-book special. Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. All the books by me, by the way, will have an autograph plate in them. They'll all be autographed books. With a $480 gift, or $40 a month for a year, you get all 5 books. You get the T-shirt, you get the sticker, you get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's basically everything. You know, you get everything. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and we'll have a meet and greet. We'll, you know, hang out here for the last hour of the show. And you can watch the show, you know, and being, it's not recorded, it's live, you know, being performed, I guess is the word, being done, whatever. And then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and we'll have a very nice day. So those are, you know, the goodies that Free Speech TV is offering. But the bottom line is this network is doing really important work. I mean, really important work. There are not a lot of progressive media voices out there. And the few that we have tend to occupy, you know, more obscure niches. They tend to pop up on YouTube, or they're over on a website like Think Progress that literally Google refuses to spider. They refuse to include in their search engine results Alternet and Think Progress and MediaMatters.org. They've all been hit with this. They've been essentially censored by Google. And then the right wingers go in and they get the president of Google on and they say, why are you censoring right-wing sites? Well, we don't really censor right-wing sites, just Nazi sites and left-wing sites. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on in this country right now. If you want to preserve progressive media and help it grow, as I said, the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that come February we're going to have at least one, maybe two, maybe even three new shows on this network. And one of them in particular, well, two of them actually in particular, I know the hosts, and they're going to be spectacular if we can pull this off. Wouldn't you like to have a really great show bumping out of the end of my show? So there's another couple hours of really great progressive programming that's live that you can interact with. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. With a $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The book, The Quantum Revelation by Paul Levy.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the third hour of our program. I have a question. If you're the Customs and Border Patrol and you take a 7-year-old girl into custody who tells you that she has not ate or drank anything in the last couple of days, how is it that you lock her up in a freezing cold room overnight so that she dies? We just had a 7-year-old girl die in the custody of our Border Patrol from dehydration. You're arresting somebody. I mean, when they arrested Dylan Roof, the guy who murdered about 7 people, as I recall, in a church in South Carolina, walked up to him with a gun and just shot them in the heads. When they arrested him, they drove him to Burger King on the way to jail so he could get lunch. This is a 7-year-old girl from Guatemala who came here with her father to seek asylum. They arrested them. They put her in a jail cell, and she's dead in the morning, or she's in convulsions in the morning. They fly her to the hospital, and she dies at the hospital. But same effect. What the hell is going on in this country? This Stephen Miller, if it's not a white male, it's not worthy of supremacy. This bizarre mentality. Oh, it's not bizarre. It's what our nation was founded on and built on, white male supremacy. But it has reached the point where we are treating people as if they're not even human beings. Donald Trump refers to these asylum seekers as animals. These are not animals. These are human beings. These are people. This is a 7-year-old girl that this administration's policies killed. Oh, let's be brutal with them. Let's separate the children from their parents. Let's put them in these really cold rooms and brag about it. There's a Spanish phrase for it, freo something or other. The meat lockers, the freezing chambers where they stick these people. And John Kelly comes out and says, yeah, if we make it really tough on them, they'll be discouraged from coming. The word will spread. It'll cause people not to come here. Right. When somebody is fleeing death, they're not real picky about where they're fleeing to. Just, tell me how this is. At the administration, they were asked this morning, there was a Washington Post story about John Wagner and Nick Miroff. Does the administration, let me get the exact phrase here. Asked by a reporter if the administration is taking any responsibility for the girl's death, White House spokesman Hogan Gidley said, no. No, we're not responsible. I sure hope the rest of the country is as pissed off about this as I am. This is emblematic of a much larger issue. I mean, it's been over 140 days since a judge said that you've got to reunite these children that you stole from their parents, and there's still, a couple of hundred of these kids who are separated from their parents. This is obscene. Also, Donald Trump can pander to the racist vote? Rudy in Riverside, Georgia, Riverdale, Georgia. I'm sorry. Rudy, what's on your mind?
Tom, this is going to come back on us,
Yeah.
I honestly believe, because I don't walk in fear. I have guns, but I choose not to carry them. I guess what I'm saying, Tom, is sincere. That lady that called me, I almost had a wreck when she was talking.
Oh, you're talking about Melanie, who called and said Donald Trump is wonderful and his lawyer's a liar?
Yes, that disturbed me.
Well, this is why, friends don't let friends watch Fox News. and people shouldn't let grandma watch Fox News.
Right, yeah, but Tom, what happened to that young girl is an extension of what the real problem in this country is. You know what I'm saying? Things like that happen when you have ignorance and hatred.
Yep.
And Tom, this is going to come back to haunt this country.
I agree. It already is. I mean, it's destroying our reputation around the world.
Yes, it's going to beyond reputation. This is going to come. A lot of people. A lot of people going to get hurt because of our ignorance.
How so? Rudy?
I can get. How so?
You mean the immigrants, like the 7-year-old girl, or are you talking about something else?
I just believe in karma. I just believe what goes around comes around. I believe you reap what you. I just believe. I just believe that you just should treat people the way that you will want to be treated.
Yeah, that's the it's the essence of all.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so I just try to live by that. And what I'm seeing is that, the more I, pay attention to certain people and I read, I'm beginning to understand that saying with Martin Luther King, sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. I mean, it's really what's happening, and it's destroying this country.
Yep, and it's happening around issues of race. It's happening around science. It's happening around climate change. It's happening around, women's rights. It's happening around voting rights. I mean, at every level, and the media is not exposing this stuff. Rudy, spot on. Thank you very much for the call. Sue in Cairo, Michigan. Hey, Sue, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I want to thank you for what you do. I really enjoy your program, and I just wish people would listen.
Thank you.
More people would listen. Hey, what is the status on the caravan with the people?
I think that caravan had reached the border near Tijuana a week or so ago, and that's when we started shooting tear gas at them.
Right, and that's all I've heard.
Yeah. Okay. Apparently Mexico is trying to work something out with Guatemala to provide some sort of political asylum to some of these people. Some of them are still sitting down there waiting to get into the United States so that they can apply for political asylum.
Okay.
But it's not a good situation, and as long as Stephen Miller, this screaming racist, literally since he was a child, according to his high school friends, is in charge of our immigration policy and is advising Donald Trump, both on policy and on politics, it's going to continue like this. And you know, the solution obviously is in the ballot box and in the courts. But the courts spoke, 140 days ago. I mean, almost almost a half a year ago, saying you've got to reunite these families. And the Trump administration is like, maybe not. We don't care. It's
okay.
It's just it's terrible. It's really terrible.
It is.
Yep.
And I know. I have another question for you. May I ask why you moved to Oregon and left Washington?
Yeah, well, A, Donald Trump became president. B, I quit doing a TV show that was based in Washington, D.C., the show on RT. And C, and probably I should put these in reverse order because C is the main reason why we moved. All three of our kids live here in Oregon, and our oldest just got married, and so we now have 2 grandchildren from that, and our youngest and her wife just adopted a child. So it was like, we really wanted to be here. So,
well, I don't blame you one bit, and I wish you much happiness there.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Sue.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you, too, and thanks for the call. John in San Francisco. Hey, John, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to object to the discussion of this morning about Kamala Harris choosing not to prosecute. Before we get all the information, I really don't think we should be criticizing her. We should be criticizing Comey for not indicting Hillary over the sloppiness of her emails. But that aside, the person I'd much rather hear discussion about and criticism of is Dianne Feinstein, a Republican in Democratic clothing who's married to one of the 10 richest men in California. And he has contracts to exclusive contracts at first shot at the financial, what do they call them? What was his subject? The financial collapse. What are those foreclosures? He has first shot at that, Richard Blum, and he also has an exclusive contract to liquidate the USPS.
Yeah, John, didn't Dianne Feinstein just get reelected?
And I brought that up before the re-election with you and Mark Pope.
I know, it was all over, but I think that the voters have spoken.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be back at 16 minutes past the hour. Stick around. Anything Goes Friday. And welcome back. Ron in Wilsonville, Oregon. Hey, Ron, what's on your mind today?
Well, I wanted to talk about impeaching Trump and why I think it's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Bernie supporter, and as much as I dislike the idea of Clinton 2.0, I voted for Hillary. But after the midterm elections, I realized that the Trump presidency is actually good for progressive democracy. And I'm afraid that if we impeach Trump over the payments to these women, that it's going to take the momentum away from a 2020 blue tsunami. If we don't convict him for colluding with the Russians and emolument violations, if we impeach him over this issue with his women, people are going to just dismiss Trump, and we're going to fall back into the same pattern that we've had for the last 30 years?
Yeah, I've heard this argument from a number of Republicans, Ron. But let me finish my point. What they're saying essentially, and I think what you're saying, and I'll give you a minute to rebut it, is essentially, Bill Clinton actually became more popular. His popularity went up into the mid-60s as a consequence of being impeached. And I get that. But everybody understood, I think, by the time that Bill Clinton was impeached, that they were really, really reaching. I mean, they started out saying he was part of a corrupt real estate deal in which he lost $35,000. Speaking of corrupt real estate, look at the White House right now. And then they tried to go through, his wife shouldn't have fired her travel advisor, and the Rose Law Firm. And it's just series after, thing after thing after thing. And I think pretty much everybody in the country got it that there was no there. Yeah, so he had sex with Monica Lewinsky and he lied about it. And they prosecuted him for the lie. Well, Trump and these 2 women, he lied about it. They're going to prosecute him for the lie. That may not, they may fall into the same category. The American people may say, so what? And that's possible. But I think that what we really need to look at, Ron, is Nixon. Nixon actually committed real crimes, and I mean serious crimes. Taking bribes while he was in office. And I think that you're going to see that Donald Trump actually committed crimes far more serious than porking a porn star and then lying about it. And when those things come out, when the overall corruption of the Trump crime family is obvious, and the New York Times has done some brilliant reporting on this so far, I don't think the American people are going to be able to look away. I think it's going to be Nixon all over again, not Clinton all over again. Your turn, Ron.
I agree with you 100%. But we need to zero in on the crimes other than the women, because when the Monica Lewinsky issue came up, I was like, that's his private life. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
And I think that people like Melanie are saying the exact same thing about this. Regardless of whether he's lying. I mean, we just elected appointed a Supreme Court justice who's lied through his teeth repeatedly.
Yeah, Brett Kavanaugh. But see, the thing with Clinton, I'd have to go back and look at a timeline, but I don't recall that Monica Lewinsky or any of, Monica Lewinsky was specifically what he lied about, that was ever involved in the 1996 election. And this prosecution was, as I recall, in 98. So if Clinton wasn't lying during the campaign or wasn't, and then the campaign contributions wasn't paying off Monica to stay quiet, if he wasn't doing that, then his crime is quite different than Trump's crime. But I agree with you. I think that we need to look at much more substantive things, and I'm betting anything they're coming down the road. So we have now, we know
Thom Hartmann
a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it. But, in a real and meaningful context, what does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do here on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual, conversations, reporting about the actual criminality. Back at Anything Goes Friday. And if I can get my mouse back here. There we go. Dave in Lake Worth, Florida. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today? Dave? I'm not hearing Dave. Dave is on line 2, Sheriff, if you want to find out what's going on. No, for some reason there we go. Sarah in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Hey, Sarah, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thank you. So I've never called you before, but you were talking about immigration, and I don't know if this is a stretch, but I was just reading today about how Alex Acosta is the labor secretary and how he also is in charge of human trafficking. It was in the Miami Herald. So I don't know. I was just disturbed about all these kids and how they were transported under cover of darkness, and there seems to be no database for who they are. How can anybody know if they're even okay? I can't stop thinking about them.
Yeah, and Alex Acosta was the guy who, as the prosecutor, let Jeffrey Epstein, after he was accused of having sex with over 30 underage girls, him and his friends, which included Donald Trump, that he let him off with, a year in the county jail where during the day he got to go to his own office, and, it was just bizarre.
It's awful.
Yeah, Acosta has a lot to answer for, and I guarantee you the Democrats are going to start holding some hearings in the House coming up in the next year, and he will be before them. And
so that's not, because I guess they all got immunity. Everybody that was connected with the case or might have known him got immunity, is what I was
I don't think it
reading.
was immunity. I think it was just that once the case was adjudicated, once they decided, okay, you're going to get a year in jail, in the county jail, and during that year, every day you can go home all day and you just come back to the jail to sleep every night. Once that was decided, everything fell apart. There was no ongoing criminality. The records were sealed. The girl's testimony was sealed. That was the end of it.
Yeah. And now he's the labor secretary, and he oversees human trafficking.
Yeah.
Is what I was reading.
Yeah, it's actually a bizarre non sequitur. It's just incredible. Sarah, thank you for pointing that out. Thanks for the call.
For your show.
Thank you. Good talking with you. Patrick in Seaside, California. Hey, Patrick, what's on your mind?
Crimes against humanity. But before I get to my comments, Tom, I just love Portland. I'm calling you from the beautiful Monterey Peninsula, and I tell people in California that Portland is so chill. It makes Big Sur, Berkeley, and Santa Cruz look uptight by comparison.
Yeah, I tell people, if you've ever seen Portlandia, that's not a drama. That is a documentary. That's really what it's like here.
These are crimes against humanity, especially Miller.
Yeah.
I know, from the book, I can't remember the title, going back it probably goes back further, during the Bush administration when you had Aryan Nations guys going into the military to get combat training and then becoming police, and our police forces are infiltrated by racists and white supremacists. Sometimes I think that the ICE application form must be just two questions. Are you a racist? Yes. Do you hate Mexicans and people who are not white? Yes. You're hired. Here's a gun, a badge, and an armored vehicle. But this is a crime against humanity. What Miller's doing, what this administration is doing, and what it's encouraging in the worst elements of our country. I can't understand racism, Tom. I don't understand this hatred. And if you can do this to a child, you're beyond a sociopath. I mean, how does this not hurt everybody's heart? And is there any way that these people, when they're out of office, can be tried for crimes against humanity?
Yes, they can, Patrick.
I want to see that happen more than anything.
I do too.
Thanks for taking my call, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you, Patrick. I mean, you've got the court in The Hague. You've got courts here. There's a lot of ways these guys can be held accountable, and we need to start with democratic investigations in the House of Representatives. Jeremy in Woodland, California. Hey, Jeremy, what's on your mind today?
How you doing there, Tom? I had a comment, I guess, regarding a caller you had a few moments ago talking about trying to compare Clinton and Donald Trump in terms of their sexual indiscretions.
Right.
And I don't think there's any comparison at all, because Trump, what he's done is he has covered up his indiscretions in an attempt to sway an election.
Right, in the context of a campaign, and Clinton did not do that, to the best of my knowledge.
Exactly, and so I think that we do this ourselves a disservice when we try to talk about them in the same sentence.
Well, that's why I was advising the guy who called in and said that he should be looking at the Nixon impeachment rather than the Clinton impeachment, because this has a whole lot more in common, and I think it's going to play out that way. In fact, I'm guessing that within 6 months, Donald Trump is going to resign, and he's going to cut a deal with Mueller, and he's going to get off scot-free, and he's going to get his family off scot-free, but he's going to resign and leave the White House. It's what Spiro Agnew did back in '74. It's what Richard Nixon did in '74. There's a precedent for it. I wouldn't be happy about it, but, that's my prediction. Jeremy, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Do you think Trump's going to get away with it all? I don't, but I don't think he's going to be put in prison either. We'll see, though. So we know, a president who is illegitimate. He's a criminal. He committed crimes to become president. A number of the people around him did as well. Obviously, Cohen and Manafort, apparently Pence. And if he's illegitimate, shouldn't we begin impeaching his judges? I mean, and him and Pence together and put President Pelosi in? I mean, these are serious questions, actually. And you'll hear a conversation about them here on Free Speech TV. I don't think you're going to hear that conversation in most of the rest of the media. They've been dancing up to it, but in a real and meaningful context, what does this mean for the nation? What does this mean for the future of the nation? How does this fit into the past of the nation? You don't hear those kind of conversations. You do here on Free Speech TV. Here on Free Speech TV, you will hear actual conversations, reporting about the actual criminality that has been going on, not just in this White House, but that has been going on for a long, long time, frankly, coming out of the White House. And these are conversations that we need to have. And so many of the conversations that we needed to have, the role of the oligarchs, had it not been for the Koch brothers, Trump never would have been elected. For that matter, had it not been for the Koch brothers, probably the last several Republican presidents would never have been elected. If it wasn't for Rupert Murdoch, you wouldn't have a right-wing, billionaire Rupert Murdoch looking out for the billionaire class. You wouldn't have a right-wing machine that so dominates American politics that just crazy stuff gets out there constantly. And people end up going to pizzerias and shooting them up. I mean, it's just, anyhow, we talk about those things here. If you want to keep this network on the air, if you want to keep this kind of programming alive, you have to call now, 877-378-8669. It's Friday. Let's end the week with a big one, okay? 877-378-8669. We are way behind on meeting our goals. We need your help. We had an okay day yesterday. We didn't use up the whole match. We didn't accomplish that, and the match is gone. But we still have you, right? And if you can call now and make a pledge, it would be a big deal. 877-378-8669 with a $20 gift. Free Speech TV will send you a window sticker that you can put in your car or your front window or whatever. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic mug with my picture on it and tag you're it. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. This is probably the #1 book that I've written. It's been translated into, I believe, 17 languages on 5 continents. And this is new and updated and some pretty shocking information in it. $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt and the sticker. With a $240 gift, you can attend the NLP and personal growth webinar that Louise and I are putting together. And you'll get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, there's a 5-book special. Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. All the books by me, by the way, will have an autographed plate in them. They'll all be autographed books. With a $480 gift, or $40 a month for a year, you get all 5 books. You get the T-shirt, you get the sticker, you get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's basically everything. You get everything. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and we'll have a meet and greet. We'll hang out here for the last hour of the show, and you can watch the show. It's not recorded. It's live. Being performed, I guess is the word. Being done, whatever. And then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and we'll have a very nice day. So those are the goodies that Free Speech TV is offering. But the bottom line is this network is doing really important work. I mean really important work. There are not a lot of progressive media voices out there. And the few that we have tend to occupy, more obscure niches. They tend to pop up on YouTube, or they're over on a website like Think Progress that literally Google refuses to spider. They refuse to include in their search engine results. Alternet and Think Progress and MediaMatters.org. They've all been hit with this. They've been essentially censored by Google. And then the right-wingers go in and they get the president of Google on and they say, why are you censoring right-wing sites? Well, we don't really censor right-wing sites, just Nazi sites and left-wing sites. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on in this country right now. If you want to preserve progressive media and help it grow, as I said, the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that come February, we're going to have at least one, maybe two, maybe even three new shows on this network. And one of them in particular, well, two of them actually in particular, I know the hosts, and they're going to be spectacular. If we can pull this off, wouldn't you like to have a really great show bumping out of the end of my show? So there's, another couple hours of really great progressive programming that's live that you can interact with. Call now, 877-378-8669.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's Anything Goes Friday. And Tony in Pontiac, Michigan. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind today?
First of all, I want to begin by telling you that I'm a big supporter of you and that I gave $480 to Free Speech TV this week. I gave $480 to Free Speech TV last year. And in 2015, I gave $1,000 intending to see you in D.C., but my father came down with lymphoma and I never made it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Tony, you should sign up to come out to Portland if you have a chance. And by the way, Free Speech TV isn't a fundraising drive for our listeners who are not listening on Free Speech TV, but so are many of our Pacifica affiliate stations. So if you're listening via or watching via any medium that is asking for your support, please pitch in. And if you're listening on our commercial radio stations, and there's quite a few of them around the country, please, patronize their sponsors and let them know that you're listening, because that's how you can support the program. Tony, that's not what you called about, though. What's up?
No, I have a bone to pick with you.
Okay.
Even though I agree with you 99% of the time, this 1% of the time I strongly disagree with you. When you say that mainstream media does not pick up the things that Free Speech TV reports, I can cite an example. You said that they're bought by the big oil companies. When there was the big oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, Rachel Maddow on MSNBC every single night, as long as that oil well was uncapped, showed video every single night.
Sure, it was a disaster. It was 15 people or 11 or 15 people died. I mean, that's a whole different thing from talking about how the permafrost is melting across the Arctic, and you got millions of people and hundreds of millions of dollars in structures that are going to be destroyed, and not to mention an entire ecosystem. You are not seeing the kind of reporting in the media of the consequences of fossil fuel extraction. I mean, yeah, you get a spectacular blowout. Of course, it's going to be covered, but the hundreds of thousands of families across the United States whose water has been contaminated by fracking, I'm not seeing any coverage of that. The tens of thousands of people a year who die as a result of pollution from fossil fuels, I'm not seeing any coverage of that. The fact that maybe on PBS, but not on corporate media. The fact that you've got coal-fired power plants, they produce this fly ash waste, which is toxic. It has all these toxic metals in addition to arsenic in it, and they put these giant piles of this stuff largely near black communities, particularly across the Midwest, and
the Detroit River.
Yeah, and I mean it's poisoning us. You're not going to see any coverage of that in the network news because they don't want to offend their advertisers.
Well, I still think that you're painting with too broad of a brush to say that they don't report any of it.
Okay, your objection is noted, Tony. Kevin in Tracy, California. Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to talk to you about the article you wrote a few days ago regarding, if Trump and Pence are removed and Nancy Pelosi taking over.
Yeah, it just went up on Salon today, by the way.
Pardon me?
It just went up live on Salon.com today. I tweeted it out this morning.
Oh, okay. Then I will definitely read it because I tried to look at Axios. Anyway, I'm not that great at finding things. But so a friend of mine said that he thinks there's going to be like a great big revolt from the Trump supporters, and Trump himself said the other day if he gets impeached that there will be a revolt.
Right.
I just wanted to know what your opinion is of that, because I think it'd be wonderful if, he's removed in that manner.
If he's removed by impeachment?
Well, yeah, or just that, things fall into place that the Speaker of the House could take over
Right.
and just start trying to basically erase all this damage that he
That will
constantly
happen
does.
if Trump and Pence are impeached at the same time, or that could happen. There's no precedent for it, so we don't know exactly how it'll play out, and John Roberts may well find some way to kind of weasel it through and say, no, we're going to impeach Trump, and then 3 minutes later we'll impeach Pence, and in those 3 minutes, Pence can make Paul Ryan, vice president, and so instead of going to Pelosi, it becomes Paul, or whatever, God only knows. But it seems to me, from just a clean read of the Constitution, that if both of them resign, you're not going to have the Jerry Ford situation. You would have the Speaker of the House takes over. The Constitution is very clear about the line of succession. And Nancy Pelosi would become president. But I think that what's also very likely, and I mentioned this earlier in the program today, is that as the evidence of these crimes continues to pile up, and many of the crimes that we're finding out about with regard to Donald Trump have nothing to do with election and very little to do with his being president. They have to do with his being a grifter, his running fraudulent organizations, his stealing from people who work for him, his stealing from people who are customers of his associations with the mob, his tax cheating. Apparently decades of it that the New York Times has documented, $400 million worth of tax fraud. And when that stuff catches up to him, and particularly when it threatens to ensnare his daughter Ivanka and his son Don Jr., and perhaps even Eric, when that comes close, I am I'm not certain of this at all, but I'm very suspicious or very inclined to believe that Donald Trump will cut a deal with Robert Mueller and will resign from office in exchange for, basically, all of these various prosecutions being dropped. And you want to hear an example of this, listen to Rachel Maddow's podcast, Bagman. I played a clip of it to Jerome Corsi earlier where, Spiro Agnew, it's all about Agnew and what he went through. And, he actually, not only was he taking bribes while he was in the White House as the vice president, literally people were walking into the White House with briefcases full of money and giving it to Spiro Agnew. But after he resigned, as part of his resignation deal, the federal government let him keep the money. He didn't even have to return the money. I mean, that's the insane part of it. Mm-hmm. And so, with that kind of a precedent, and then the same thing with Richard Nixon. Nixon walked away. The same thing with Ronald Reagan. I mean, Reagan was well into his dementia, but Caspar Weinberger knew where the bodies were buried and could have easily, probably even put all the people associated with him in jail. So Jerry Ford pardons him as soon as he leaves. George Herbert Walker Bush pardons him as soon as he has an opportunity to. So that's what I think is going to play out, Kevin.
But do you think that there will be any type of reaction from the hardcore base? If the stuff comes down on Trump?
Nixon's base, his hardcore base, Nixon's version of today's Fox News base, although back then that wasn't the 20% that watched Fox News and listened to right-wing hate radio. It was more like maybe 5 or 10%. But Nixon's base hung in there with him, and after Nixon resigned, there was a whole subgenre of literature, of books and articles about how Nixon got railroaded, Nixon was the victim of a Democratic plot, Nixon was really the good guy in all of this, and to this day there are people who believe that. So I think that when Trump leaves office, if he leaves office, or even after his term in office is over, that he's still going to have people who are in the bag for him, to paraphrase, who are true believers. Kevin, I need to move along, but thank you for the call. Rob in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Hey, Rob, what's up?
Hey, thank you so much for taking my call, Tom. You had just said a little bit ago that and with that previous caller as well, that you give it 6 months or so and he's going to cut a deal with Mueller, Trump will, and you think he's going to get off scot-free. I want to disagree, but I also don't want to totally sound ignorant. So can you explain to me exactly why that is? Would he be giving up, global type things because this web is spreading, it is global? Is that why? I don't understand.
I think that there are two things happening from Donald Trump's point of view. One of them is that the frauds and crimes that he committed to become president are coming into public view, and those are the things that are highly impeachable. The if not collaboration with Russia, the attempt to do so on the part of his son and his campaign, the covering up of his affairs with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Those things are very real crimes and they're impeachable offenses. But I think they're the least of his worries. I think the biggest of his worries is that they're going to dig into his associations with the mafia, that they're going to dig into his tax crimes, which the New York Times has already largely documented. And then it's going to get even worse than that because, you know, after his third or fourth bankruptcy, American banks wouldn't loan him any money anymore. He went to Deutsche Bank. They loaned him some money, and then they wouldn't loan him any money anymore. And so then he went to the oligarchs, the Russian oligarchs and Azerbaijanis and others like this. And there, I think you're going to find very clear evidence of violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, embezzlement. I mean, all kinds of things that are possible out of that. And those have nothing to do with his being president, but those are the crimes where they could literally go after his son, his daughter, himself, perhaps even his wife with this $25 million that she gave to her best friend who ran the inaugural committee. Apparently for not doing anything worth $25 million. And at that point, I mean, when it became obvious that Spiro Agnew was literally taking bribes in the White House and had been doing it his entire life, his entire political career, an insanely corrupt politician, just like Donald Trump is an insanely corrupt real estate developer. When it became clear that that was the case, the prosecutors sat down and said, what's more important, putting Agnew in prison or getting him out of the White House? And if we're going to try and put him in prison, it may take a year. It may be a protracted process. It may have to involve the Democrats in impeachment. If we can simply cut a deal to get this criminal out of the White House, that's the best thing for the United States. And so that's the deal they cut. And I'm guessing that the prosecutors today will probably be thinking along similar lines, particularly since that precedent has been established.
Where you're coming from on that, and those are what that is all criminal charges, though, right? So if we have, because we have the Russians that interfered with our election, that they collaborated with the Trump campaign through any means necessary. They created that back channel through the NRA. That we're looking at treason. How are we not just taking him out of the White House right now? On those lines, trying for the criminal and let Robert Mueller try. I'm kind of blown away that.
I think we're on the brink of it, Rob. I think we're on the brink of it, and what we're seeing is the early contours of what the evidence would look like for an impeachment trial like that, or for a charge of treason. But I don't think we have the smoking gun yet.
Yesterday, I just want to add this right at the end. Chuck Rosenberg yesterday at the very end of Nicole Wallace's show, they were tiptoeing around the word treason, so that's a good sign. Yeah,
there you go. It is so obvious that there's so much more coming and there's so many more shoes to drop. We just have to hang on and be ready. Rob, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Speaking the truth, some multinational corporations would really rather you didn't know all about. Thom Hartmann here with you. We'll be right back. And welcome back. David in Richland, Washington. Hey, David. Thanks for watching us.
Hello,
What's
Tom.
up? Hey.
Changing the subject a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
A question, you were talking about it yesterday, and I didn't quite hear much talking on the specific question of why Orthodox religion is dying, and a follow-up question would be, what would they need to do to bring their members back into church? What would correct the problem? So I was kind of curious what your thoughts on that would be.
Yeah, it seems to me that Orthodox religion is dying in the United States because of its embrace of doctrines. In the case of the Catholic Church, the all-male priesthood, its embrace of doctrines that are clearly out of step with the times and that are even arguably extremely destructive. And on the one hand, and on the other hand, in terms of the Pentecostal, the white evangelical churches, it's dying because of their embrace of right-wing policies and the whole prosperity gospel thing in the Republican Party. You don't see that same thing, to the best of my knowledge, happening in the black church, and where churches have been relatively apolitical outside of issues that affect the people themselves, and have been community hubs. They provide safety. They provide a place for community. They provide a place to worship. I think that if the white churches were to get back to that, they would start seeing their membership grow. And it's my understanding that the United Church of Christ, which is the most liberal denomination outside of the Unitarians, and the Unitarians, actually, these two denominations have actually been growing over the last decade, whereas some of the mainline denominations have been declining. So I think that's probably why.
Yeah, now I am a Unitarian,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also an atheist.
Yeah, many Unitarians are.
Which is ironic because in my church, I have some friends that are very spiritual and New Age, which would be almost on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get together and we can talk and be friendly or whatever, and then ask questions of each other, and be completely calm about
Yeah,
that.
that's what I love about the Unitarian Church. You know the old joke about Unitarians, about the guy who's walking down the road through the forest and he comes to a fork in the road? Do you know that joke? He comes to a fork in the road, and there's two signs pointing in the two directions of the fork, and one sign says to heaven, and the other one says to a discussion about heaven, and he takes that one, of course.
Right.
So.
Okay, I think that pretty well covers it there.
Okay.
Enjoy your books.
Thank you, David.
Particularly Screwed. But thanks again.
Thank you. Yeah, Screwed is one of my favorite books. Thank you, David, for the call. Screwed is one of my absolutely favorite books. I wrote it, about a decade ago, but I think it's every bit as current now as it was then. It's really about how, where conservative philosophy came from, going back to Hobbes, Thomas Hobbes and Leviathan, and patriarchy and original sin and all this stuff, where conservative ideology and worldviews came from, and how Reagan distorted them and turned them into an economic religion that is destroying middle-class America. And so, what's screwed is us, particularly people with people with families. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive, and in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, the last hours of ancient sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Mark in Janesville, Wisconsin. Hey, Mark, what's the station you're listening to us on there?
It was a WADR, the community radio.
Oh, cool. So what's up?
I just want to say thank you, Tom, for taking my call, and thank you for your service to our country, speaking the truth.
Thank you.
2 points or 2 questions. Why do you think the Democratic Party or Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, when they had that meeting with Trump the other day on this wall, when he threw that in their face, don't bring up that, listen, Donald, you said the Mexican government and the Americans the Mexican government was going to pay for this wall, and the Americans, it wasn't going to cost us a dime.
Yeah. He said it over and over and over. It's to the point where he could do a response and call. He'd say, and I'm going to build the wall, and who's going to pay for it? And everybody in the audience would yell, Mexico!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, I
So
just
much
don't
for that.
understand why the media, and when they had the chance, why they don't throw that in his face.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that they were more interested, Schumer and Pelosi were more interested in, number one, doing the worldwide wrestling thing with Trump and slapping him down, which is exactly what they did, and rebutting his bald-faced lies about, what was going on, who did what, government shutdowns and all this kind of stuff. The Democrats have not shut down the government ever. This is something that, Newt Gingrich brought along as one of his strategies, and the Republicans still are clinging to it. Trump thinks it's cool. We'll see. I mean, we've got until just, the day before Christmas or something like that. But,
I have one other point.
Say what?
I have one other point.
Quickly, please.
Okay. I saw a thing on, it was a retired U.S. Border Patrolman. I mean, this assumption that some poor person running across the desert with a backpack bringing a lot of drugs in the country is ridiculous.
Right.
The vast majority of the drugs, the illegal drugs that are coming in, are in these semis because of NAFTA. And he said, there's no way they pack that in and then seal containers. They can't unload every semi. There's thousands and thousands of semis that come into this country every day.
You're absolutely right.
I mean,
you're absolutely right. And not just, by the way, not just from Mexico. You've got heroin coming in from Afghanistan. You've got meth and some of the more designer drugs and fentanyl coming in from China. The wall is just a stupid idea. Mark, thanks a lot for the call. Michael in Snohomish, Washington. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hi. I just saw that California recently okayed development of land in these fire zones that just burned. And we have tsunami towers and tornado storm cellars, hurricane shelters, even nuclear bomb shelters. Are the California land developers going to have to build wildfire shelters in these new developments?
That's an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I don't know the answer, Michael, but I also don't know if after an area has burned, if it's less likely to burn again or not, because so much of the tinder is gone, or if it's actually even more vulnerable to burn because all the charcoal is left. I don't know the answer to those questions, but they're good questions to ask. Michael, thank you. Jay in Edmonds, Washington. Hey, Jay, what's up?
I was just calling to see if you had ever heard about those Dionysus vases.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's some parallels between early Christianity and worship of Dionysus and the Mithras.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. He was the product of a virgin birth, as I recall, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he was the god of wine, and you can find 500-year-old BC vases with Dionysus being crucified and them offering him bread and wine.
Huh. No, I've read articles over the years about the I wouldn't call it pagan, but basically the roots of Christianity, all the things that Christianity is appropriated, from the Yule log to the Christmas tree to the virgin birth to the crucifixion. They all happened in major world religions literally thousands of years before Christianity, before Jesus was walking around loose. But beyond that, I'm not sure what to do with that other than just acknowledge it. Hey, it's the weekend. Have a great Saturday and Sunday. Have a great weekend. I'll be back here on Monday with you. And in the meantime, let's never forget that democracy cannot work as a spectator sport. It's not just enough to sit and watch TV and say, oh yeah. No, we've got to do something. Even if that means just waking up your neighbors and your friends. We have to do something. So please get out there, get active, tag You're It. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.